Marlies After Dark. That's what we're calling this here now, right? Game 3 of the Calder Cup Finals, and the Toronto Marlies take down the Chicago Wolves in their first game at Coca-Cola Coliseum, which I had to reconfigure in my brain that's what it is. It's Coca-Cola Coliseum, not the previously known Rico Coliseum. The Toronto Marlies take a 3-0 series lead in the Calder Cup Finals with a 1-0 victory over Chicago, thanks to Easton Cowan, who scores his 8th goal of the AHL playoffs. You know what, tonight in this Marlies post-game show, we're going to do a little bit of everything here. So we'll break down what happened in the game, but we're also a Leafs channel, so we're going to make this a little bit more Leafs related. Guys that we saw play for the Maple Leafs this season, guys that we think could probably be making the jump to the Maple Leafs over the next year, 2 years, whatever it may be. Guys who could potentially be making an impact for this team next season. So we'll break all of that down here on tonight's post-game show. As always, a presentation of Bet365, normally here for Leafs Nation After Dark, but tonight's Marlies After Dark is a presentation of Bet365. Download the app today. Every sports fan will tell you that not all games are created equal. Sometimes the excitement just isn't there. Sometimes you get a dud. It happens. Not like what we saw tonight in the Calder Cup Finals, but at Bet365, boring games are a thing of the past. Now there's always a reason to tune in, even if the score isn't one of them. 1-0 game, maybe not the most exciting for prop bets and that kind of stuff, but a very exciting game nonetheless when it comes to playoff game and a finals game at that. While they can't make every game exciting, they can help fans get excited about every game at Bet365. Download the app today. Must be 19 or older. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has concerns about gambling, visit connectsontario.ca. Terms and conditions apply. On tonight's post-game show, we will break down what we saw in this game, as I talked about off the top, but we will also be joined by Nick Alberga, and we're going to open up the chat to some callers. I want to hear what you guys have to say, what your guys' thoughts are on this game, on the Marlies, and why not about the Maple Leafs? Why not talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs? Because they just continue to make noise, whether it's because people want to write stories about them, whether it's because people want to go on rival team markets talk shows and talk about them, or if it's because they want to make trades. The Toronto Maple Leafs are in the news, and they continue to cause a storm. So we'll break all of that down here tonight on the postgame show. So let me just outline for those of you who are new, maybe for those of you who are just like looking for Marlies stuff and coming across the channel or coming across my content for the first time and wondering what the hell is going on here. My name is Zack Phillips. I am the host of Leafs Nation After Dark right here on this channel, breaking down everything Toronto Maple Leafs, following every single Maple Leafs game, all regular season and playoffs when they play them. Obviously, this is not the season for them to do so, all playoffs long. Given the fact that the Toronto Marlies are up 2-0 and it's very newsy, I've been kind of getting the itch to get back on the microphone and talk about what's been happening with the Toronto Maple Leafs. If you haven't caught me over on Off the Roster or on the Sheet on Daily Faceoff, make sure to check out those two properties. But primarily, a lot of my content and coverage is here on this channel. As the course of the show goes on, we will have special guests. We will have people call in from the chat. And then the other things that we'll do, which are a little bit more unique to this show than most shows, super chats. You guys send in those super chats. We will read them here on the show. Proceeds from our super chats do go to Sick Kids Charity, Canada's #1 research-intensive children's hospital. Number 3 in North America. You guys send in those super chats. Proceeds from our super chats go to Sick Kids Charity. I will read every single super chat that comes in, whether it's a question, a comment, a concern. It doesn't matter to me. I'm going to read them all. Hot takes. You want to tell me I'm an idiot. You want to agree with something. I don't care. I'll read them. I'll answer them. I'll talk about them. So send in those super chats in the chat there. They go to an amazing cause. As well, on top of that, you guys want to see me do some dumb stuff here? It's kind of capped. We'll do some dumb stuff, but not that dumb of stuff. We got smelling salts. This is a brand new bottle. When I open this bottle, I'm going to open it right beside the microphone for you guys so you can truly understand how insane this bottle is. But I put the water in and shook it up before the show started. And for anybody who's familiar with smelling salts and how smelling salts work, the bottle gets hot and pressurized. This thing is warm right now and full of pressure. It will probably have like a little pop sound to it just to show you guys how brand new this bottle is when we get the smelling salts going. So you like the stream, you get it up to 50 likes, 50, 100, 150, 200. I don't care how high this thing goes. If we get to 1,000 tonight, I will do every set of 50. We will do smelling salts here on the postgame show. So that is how the show goes. It's not that structured. You know, there's not segments in terms of like, hey, at this point in the show, we do this, and at this point, we do this, and at this point, we do this. It's not how it goes. It's a little bit free-flowing. It's what's off the top of my brain, and a lot of it is what's going on in the chat. You guys want to let me know your thoughts on the game or players or plays that we saw. You send them in there, and we'll bounce back and forth off of all of that throughout the course of the show. And with that, I'm already seeing super chats piling up, so let's get into some of these here right away, because some of them I think are just some greetings, and some of them are a little bit more in terms of in tune with what happened in the game. So let's get to our first super chats here that we've got. And a reminder, again, proceeds from our super chats do go to Sick Kids Charity, so continue to send those in. But starting at the top, our good friend Maxentius Decimus, who says Aktiemov and Hildeby are the future. Go Marlies. Yeah, I mean, kind of interesting, obviously, that Dennis Hildeby is just not playing, but you're going to ride the hot hand, and that hot hand right now is Artur Aktiemov. You know, success at the AHL level does not always translate to the NHL level. That's a given. That's just something that NHL teams and fans have had to learn and adapt and understand over time. But the thing I'll say with Aktiemov is that again, I'm not a goal about an issue with my stream here. So let me just see if I can figure this out quickly, and we'll get back to it here. Hold on a second, and for everybody. There we go. We should be good now. I think I fixed the internet there. We should be good. That's how this goes. But when it comes to Artur Aktiemov, as I was saying, he's very calm and collected back there. He is very poised in his reaction, whether it's visibly, and you can see it on his face and his emotions as the game goes on. If it's through his body language and how he handles things under pressure. You saw that play by Ben Danford where he makes a little bit of a risky one coming around the side of the net, pops out to the side and then tries to make the pass where he's throwing it across to the corner, is seemingly trying to get it to safety as he's under pressure from two Wolves players, but he throws it at Aktiemov, and Aktiemov just very calmly, coolly goes down, collects the puck, keeps it out of the net, keeps it out of danger, just picks that thing up and alleviates any type of pressure. You saw the first period, how that one went for the Toronto Marlies, and I'll kind of get to the offensive side of things in a second, but that was a lot of Wolves pressure early on. It didn't seem like the Marlies were very settled into that game in that first period. And, you know, maybe some of it is just now coming back home and having to deal with the pressures of playing at home in the Calder Cup Finals and realizing, hey, we're up 2-0. This is a big moment in front of our fans. despite the fact that you're deeper into your playoff run and you're into the Calder Cup Finals. But regardless, it seemed like they kind of just weren't settled. There was a lot of broken plays. There were a lot of odd man chances. There were a lot of giveaways that were taking place, whether it's from defense or forwards, and able to get the puck out of the zone. Akhtiamov just very coolly, calmly settled things down and made big saves. And I think one of the things that stood out to me was the fact that he made big saves that didn't necessarily seem like he was making them look like big saves, if that makes sense. They were big saves that came at opportune times where they could have been down 1, 2, 3, nothing, given the amount of chances and the quality of chances that they'd given up early in that game. But he just kind of settled it down. And I think that goes a long way to the Marlies, where if he is scrambling back there behind them, if he's trying to find his footing in the game, if he looks like he's chasing the puck, chasing the play, then their scramblingness in front of him could just continue because of the way he's scrambling behind them. And that just completely was not the case at all. Akhtiamov seemed very level-headed, very on the ball, very, very on top of things in that first period. And that continued as the game went on for a shutout finish for Artur Akhtiamov in this one here tonight. But I was very impressed with Akhtiamov's play. I was impressed with just his demeanor in the net. And I hope that this translates to success at the NHL level for him and for the Toronto Maple Leafs' sake, because you look at the trade that got made today, you moved out one of your goaltenders. So that goaltending depth that we talked about last season, where it's like, hey, you know what? Stolarz goes down, Wall goes down. Is it a tandem of Hildeby and Akhtiamov at times, which we did end up seeing? You always had that reassurance that guys are coming through. When you move on from pieces, you do need to start having guys that are below push through. You need your Dennis Hildebys to be ready to take the next step. You need your Akhtiamovs to be the number one guy in the AHL, ready to step in and be a backup in the NHL, ready to step in and take on a starting role, or at minimum, manage a significant chunk of games if injuries are coming up. Akhtiamov seems to be trending in that direction, and I think that his play here in the Calder Cup Finals and over the course of the regular season into the playoffs leading up to the Calder Cup Finals have given the Toronto Maple Leafs front office enough confidence and enough comfortability to say, hey, you know what? We can move off of a guy because we've got pieces below. We've got pieces coming through. So to Max's point there on that super chat, Akhtiamov and Hildeby are the future. Go Marlies. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, yeah, they are. You're 100% correct. Goaltenders are always tough to predict. I have a harder time than anybody telling you what somebody will be at the NHL level or just in a professional career in general. I look at guys that I saw at the World Juniors when I was a kid, watching them come up and go through the system and thinking, hey, these guys know what they're doing. And then you watch Zack Phillips, and he's now playing in the KHL, and you're like, how the hell did that happen? That guy should have been the best goaltender ever. It doesn't always work out. But as far as these two guys right now, it does give me some hope that you've got a solid goaltending tandem down in the AHL and guys who could probably push through here at some point, and hopefully it comes sooner than later. Next super chat comes in from Kilo James. Kilo, this is my arch nemesis. Rod Tolino. Kilo James, Rod Tolino. Hey, bro, did you see the Knicks won? Sending you hate from NYC. At this point, Kilo might be a Johnny Lazarus burner account, but in the case that Kilo is not, Kilo, fuck you. And the Knicks. Although, I will say, in a weird, twisted way, the New York Knicks winning the NBA championship, it kind of gives me hope as a Maple Leafs fan. Like, it can happen. That weird ownership situation with all the money in the world and overly involved people at the top level, it can work out. It can work. It's not a direct comparable, but you know what? It gives me hope inside to watch the New York Knicks win the NBA championship, because as a Leafs fan, I think I look at it and I think maybe they can do it. Maybe they can get it done. So from that standpoint, I'll take it. Nick copyrights with the super chat here. Thank you, Nick, for the super chat. Nick says, happy to see you live. I paused. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. You got to send a lot more money to get me to say what you sent. I'm not going to say that, but thank you for the super chat. J-Rock says, explaining like we aren't sickos on off-season day 2. Yes. The fact that I got the itch this early where I was like, yeah, we got to come back and say something. We got to come back and do something. I think says enough about where we're at here in Leafs Nation, where we basically just haven't even gotten to talk about Maple Leafs and meaningful Toronto games in a while, at least on this channel. I know a lot of people have been tuned into what the Marlies are doing, myself included, at least watching from afar and checking in and seeing how some of the games have gone, but just not getting on to talk about it, not getting on post games and getting in the mix with you guys in the chat to talk about what's going on with the team and the org and all that kind of stuff. It's a little bit disappointing, so I'm happy to be back here tonight. As pointed out here in the chat as well, 69 likes here now on the post-game show. The more you guys like to stream, the more smelling salts we do, and we have now hit 69 likes. Thank you guys for liking the stream. That means we have to do our first set of smelling salts. Said if we get to 100, we'll do more. If we get to 150, we'll do more. It just continues to roll as you guys like the stream, so don't stop liking. Here are the smelling salts. Listen, let's see. Oh, I left it probably for too long, so we didn't get the smelling salt pop like I wanted, but as everyone can see, brand new bottle of the smelling salts. These are probably going to hurt like crazy, so I'm going to keep them a little far away. Here's the smelling salts. Oh. Thank you guys for liking. Don't stop. More comments in the chat. I'm probably going to pick off the chat a lot here. I wrote down a bunch of thoughts myself, but I see people in the chat bringing up some of the things I was seeing or thinking about as the game went on. So I'm going to just bounce off of you guys and keep going back and forth with your thoughts. This super chat comes in from Robert Bett. Robert says, hey, Nick, I appreciate the super chat. Not Nick. I'm Zach. But Robert Bett says, hey, Zach, I'm going to change that for you. Do you think that John Gruden will take the jump to the show if given the chance, or will the Leafs go with Cassidy or Woodcroft or someone else? So Nick Alberga, as Robert had said, hey, Nick Alberga did have John Gruden on Leafs Morning Take. So if you haven't checked that out, make sure to subscribe here to the channel, Leafs Nation 401, right here on YouTube, so you don't miss anything on Leafs Morning Take, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill, Nick Alberga and Dave Pinota, Nick Alberga and Carter Hutton, as you would have seen this morning, talking about everything that's happened with the Maple Leafs and is happening on a day-to-day basis as well. They were breaking down everything that was going on in the Stanley Cup Final. But this question about John Gruden. So Nick had him on and kind of asked him if he had interviewed with the Maple Leafs. He didn't say yes. He didn't say no. I would imagine that the Maple Leafs, this is pure speculation, let's be clear. I would imagine that the Maple Leafs have to have a conversation with him. He's in the org. He's having a lot of success with the team right now. It's a guy you should probably, at bare minimum, be talking to. He's very in tune with a lot of these guys that you probably want to take looks at next season through the summer in camp next year. So at minimum, getting his opinion and picking his brain on these guys is probably worthwhile. Checking in to see what's working for him stylistically with the Toronto Marlies and what's allowing them to have this success. If it's just as far as having the players he does, if it's the system, if it's having unbelievable goaltending back there between Hildeby and Aktiemov, just learning and picking his brain on that. But as for what the interview process would be for a guy like John Gruden, again, speculation on this, but I would imagine it's probably difficult to have some type of in-depth interview process with John Gruden while he's going through the Calder Cup Finals and Calder Cup playoffs at that leading up to this point. Kind of just leave the guy alone. He's in your own organization. Like you have that guy there to talk to anyways, and we know that they're still working through it. Working through the playoffs, and the Maple Leafs are working through the coaching search. So they don't seem to really be in that much of a hurry. The Marlies could wrap this thing up by Thursday night, I believe is their next game here against the Chicago Wolves. So they could have this thing wrapped up by then. And then by Friday morning, you could be talking to the guy. It could be as simple as that. But as far as John Gruden goes, he's done a very good job. It's not, again, it's similar to AHL success for goaltenders and for that matter, AHL players in general, which we'll get to some of the players that I'm seeing with this Marlies team now. But what you're seeing out of this Marlies team cannot solely be just because they have Easton Cowan back and they have really good goaltending and that's it. There has to be an element of structure and systems. John Gruden has been pretty successful here with this Marlies group. As far as what he could do at the NHL level, I would be lying to you to sit here and suggest that I know John Gruden would work at the next level. That I know John Gruden will be a guy who could step into the NHL and make it happen. He's doing a phenomenal job in the AHL, but asking guys to do things at the AHL level is different than what it is at the NHL level. At the AHL level, there's a lot of development that takes place, and teaching and learning. And you get an interesting combination of guys who are veterans and who will never play in the NHL, and guys who are fighting every single day to get the attention of the big club. Like your Hames and Quillins and Grew and Cowan and Danford, for that matter, here right now, and Villeneuve. You're going to have that. And you have to manage those personalities. You have to manage the expectations. You have to manage career goals of these guys and figure out how to take players who are just stepping into the professional development system and figure out how to get them better while also continuing to evolve the players that you have who are never going to get to the NHL. Make sure they fit into your system. So truthfully, I don't know, but he's done an incredible job here with the Marlies this season. And probably at least deserves a conversation. So that is as much as I know and can speak to John Gruden and his impact. And that's as far as I know John Gruden has gone with the Toronto Maple Leafs coaching search, is that he wouldn't confirm nor deny the situation. Okay, a comment that I had seen a little bit earlier that popped in up here. I believe this one came in from Ander Lou. Ander saying that Quillen is solid. He's one of the more poised guys on the ice. Looks good in all three zones. Just wish he had a little more finishing ability. So I'm going to kind of lump Quillen into this conversation with a couple of the other guys. And some of them were guys that we've talked about on After Dark throughout the course of the season. Some of them are guys that we had brought up on Leafs Morning Take. We've made numerous clips and posts and all that kind of stuff about here on the channel and saying, hey, I want to see these guys get a look. And those guys all fit into that category. And I apologize to any of them if I'm missing out. I think Villeneuve probably fits in there. I think Rafai also probably fits into that conversation as well. But all of those guys, to me, seem like guys who are really good AHL players and still need to take a step to get to the NHL. They still need to develop their game. They still need to address areas of concern, whether for some of them that is finishing ability, as pointed out with Quillen, and we had seen a little bit at the NHL level last year when he was called up as well. If it is just decision-making, because there are things you can do at the AHL level that you see some of these guys do where it's plays on the wall and trying to make plays to the centerman or holding onto the puck for an extra second or two and not getting things out of the zone that might work at the AHL level because of the level of competition. That's not to diminish the level of competition in the AHL, but just not quite able to, or not quite the same level as the NHL level of competition is. They need to continue to develop, and they need to address those areas of their game to take that next step. It's been pointed out here numerous times in the chat, Quillen is returning from injury and missed a bunch of time. I'm well aware of that. I'm not trying to make a statement on Jacob Quillen from tonight's game alone, more so talking about the body of work and kind of grouping those guys together. There is work that needs to be done in their game. And the reason I say that, because a lot of people are probably saying, yeah, obviously, you idiot. That's why they're in the AHL and not everyday NHLers. But it's because I look at a guy like Easton Cowan, and I can't help but think he's beyond the AHL level. Every time Easton Cowan stepped on the ice tonight, he was either creating chances for somebody else or creating chances off of his own stick and getting chances for himself. Is there room for improvement in Easton Cowan's game? 100%. Like, there is undoubtedly room for improvement in Easton Cowan's game. There's probably room for improvement in everybody on the Toronto Marlies game. There's probably room for improvement in most guys on the Toronto Maple Leafs game at this point. But Easton Cowan's one of those guys I look at and think, okay, he can take that step. Like, he looks to me, Toronto Marlies, the game winner in this one is Easton Cowan. But I just look at a guy like Cowan, and I look at guys like Quillen, like Grew, like Hames, like Villeneuve, Rafai, and you can tell that there's a difference between Cowan and those guys. You can tell that he's on another level than where they're at. Do I think those guys can continue to develop and can continue to push through and maybe make life uncomfortable for in a good way for some of these NHL players who are going to be coming into camp next season? 100%. I think a lot of them will have a shot to compete for a spot at camp this season. But I look at a guy like Easton Cowan, and to me, I'm marking him down for a spot in the NHL roster. I'm marking Easton Cowan down as a guy who's going to be playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs full-time and more likely than not in a top 6 capacity next season. Because I just think that the way that he plays and the steps that he's taken in his game just show you that Easton Cowan is ready. If people in the chat are saying no audio here, just refresh the stream and it should come back. You should have no issues there. So make sure to click that refresh button. I don't know what's happening or why this is happening, but it seems like every now and then we get a little bit of a blip that goes on. It happened off the top of the show, but keep liking and just refresh there. So sorry, everybody. We've got more super chats coming in here on the post-game show tonight, so make sure to continue to send in those super chats. Proceeds from our super chats go to Sick Kids Charity. This one comes in from Cass. Cass RWR says, I got dumped and to be honest, cried. Can I get words of hope? Well, Cass, if you are a Leafs fan, I think that the one thing you can look to as a real positive that will hit close to home is the fact that the Toronto Maple Leafs went to the playoffs for 9 consecutive seasons, and in the 10th season, they missed. But when it came down to it, and the going got tough, they won the first overall pick and will more likely than not be drafting Gavin McKenna first overall to step into this Maple Leafs lineup. and be a part of the future of this team. If that doesn't give you hope, I don't know what will. Cass says, sorry, it's cringe. It's all good, Cass. This is a therapy spot for Leafs fans, apparently in all different ways. So continue to like the stream and subscribe here to the channel. Sweetie Pie says, watched 100 plus Leafs Nation. You never criticize goalies, jackass. That might be one of my favorite super chats of all time. Watched 100 plus TLN. You never criticize goalies, jackass. Well, Sweetie Pie, thanks for the super chat. As far as the comment goes about you never criticize goalies, I don't know what to say to that. I think anybody who watches the show and has been around probably knows I'm pretty willing to criticize anybody when it's needed. So, you never criticize goalies, jackass. I kind of love that comment. Thank you, Sweetie Pie. Question in the chat there did come in and say, Zach, are you taking calls tonight? I will be. I'm just going to wait for Alberga to come on here, and then we'll take some calls. Actually, you know what? I mean, I guess we probably could fire off the call link here, and we can take some calls until Alberga calls in if people want to. But the link to call in is pinned at the top of the chat there now, so make sure to hit that call-in link, as Alberga says he's here. So, there we go. All right, so we'll get to calls after. I had it set up on the wrong link. That is my apologies, Nick. I am rusty here on the After Dark show, as I have not done one since the end of the season. But with that, let's get to the man himself, who was in the arena tonight, Nick Alberga, the Golden Muzzy. Welcome to the first edition of Marlies After Dark, Nick.
What's up, jackass?
You were here for that. Okay, that's good.
I was. Yeah, you never criticize the goalies, man. It's crazy.
Is that not one of the more absurd things you've heard here on the show? Like, there's been a lot in the chat, but to suggest I would be afraid of criticizing anybody, I think is a wild take.
Yeah, I would concur with that. We have wild listeners and subscribers, so I don't doubt it. But yeah, the one thing you can't say about Zack Phillips, he's highly observant, and he's not afraid to criticize whoever it is, whether it be an assistant coach, somebody who runs the power play, the mascot, the fourth line center. So I'm going to have to pull up the tape somehow and find a time when you criticize the crease, okay?
Okay, thank you. Yeah. For people who don't remember, it was in the Ottawa series. I think the Leafs lost Game 5, and Hutz and I almost fired the vendors at Scotiabank Arena. So we were that close to doing that. Let's start general here, Nick. Marlies win this one 1-0 against Chicago Wolves at home tonight. Take a 3-0 series lead in the Calder Cup Finals. What did you make of tonight's game in general and from the Toronto Marlies?
Well, firstly, I want to pinpoint sort of the crowd, because we do talk about that a lot on this platform, going to a game at Scotiabank Arena, similar to like being at a mausoleum when somebody dies. I got to give a lot of credit. I've been to a couple of these Marlies games, man. That crowd is packed. They're chanting at the opposing players. They're giving it to Caden Primo. I thought a nice little touch that Caden Primo starts for Chicago earlier in the season. You remember, at a cup of tea with the Maple Leafs, but been really, really impressed with what I've seen from this Marlies team here in the Calder Cup playoffs. I think they play very direct. They play with speed. Their D move the puck, and I think they look connected as a group. Like, that's a buzzword you'll use when they probably go on and win this thing, but they're playing for each other. I think you just watch their body and their style and the way they've been playing, putting everything together, because people sort of forget it wasn't a great Marlies season where they have 82, 83 points, something around there. They just sort of got into the playoffs, and then they really flourished and caught on fire. As you know, I interviewed John Gruden last week, and I was blown away by what he had to say. And I think the last thing I'd bring to the table is the goaltending. I think it was only fitting on the day they trade Joseph Woll as an organization, Artur Aksyamov delivered another stellar performance, a 24 save shutout here tonight.
Let's talk a little bit about the connectiveness that this team plays with and how they play, because one of the questions that came up in the chat here, it was actually addressed to you. Brett there had said, hey, Nick, do you think that John Gruden could be making his way to the NHL? Paraphrasing the question, but do you think John Gruden could be making his way to the NHL at some point? I brought up the fact that you interviewed him and kind of posed the question about making the jump to the Maple Leafs, more or less. What do you make about the way the team plays? You kind of just outlined it there for us in general, but what is Gruden's impact on the Toronto Marlies? What's different from the way the Marlies play compared to what the Maple Leafs did last season?
Honestly, I think it's like the personnel. Like, they play a really direct game, if you can believe it. They have the puck quite a bit. They play with speed. They're physical. I was blown away again by some of their veteran guys tonight, and the way they conduct themselves. Guys like Benoit Groux, Vinny Lettieri, Dakota Mermis. Like, they got a nice mix of some like veterans on that roster and also some younger talent. You talked about Easton Cowan, the Ben Danfords of the world, the Landon Sims of the world. It's a nice mix. But I think that's sort of my takeaway watching this team. Again, I haven't watched them a lot. I can't come on here and say I'm some, Toronto Marlies scout, and I've seen every game throughout this season. But what I have seen so far is a team that's playing for each other. And I just notice how direct they are with the puck, but they make good plays. They move the puck. The D are mobile. I think you look at some of the guys they have on that back end, William Villeneuve, Ben Danford's already running the first power play unit, 12, 13, 14 games into his tenure here with the Marlies. So we're seeing progression from some of the younger players, but I think they're sort of weirdly enough playing that Berube style, but more effective than what the Maple Leafs brought. I think it's a very direct approach. It's a very simple approach to the way they play the game, but the speed is very noticeable. You can't say the same about the Maple Leafs, of course.
Well, yeah, that's fair. As far as players go on this team, I brought up guys like, you have to take things with a grain of salt. A lot of people will look at this and say, hey, some of the guys here, they're really impactful at the AHL level. But the reality is a lot of the guys are just going to be impactful at the AHL level, and that's what they are. They're impactful AHL players. Is there anybody that stood out to you here tonight as guys who are ready to take the jump? I know that you prefaced it with, and I'm on the same boat as you, not a guy who's watching every Marlies game. And this is one of the few that I've been really glued to from start to finish. But is there anybody who jumps out off the page as like, hey, that guy could be ready to take the step to the NHL next season, or that guy, he's too good for this league right now?
Yeah, I mean, there's your normal suspects. I heard you off the top before I came in there. Like, I think unequivocally a guy like Easton Cowan, I think, is too good for the AHL game. I think it's great that he's playing in these pressure cooker type games. He scores tonight, a bit of a squeaker, but so be it. I think for the most part, he's been very, very steady and consistent for this Marley squad. I think it goes without saying to what you said earlier on. He's going to be a fixture probably in the top 6 for the Maple Leafs. I think I'd really like to see guys in the back end, more so, I guess, like a William Villeneuve get a look, because I think you look at some of the guys who comprise this roster in general, like Vinny Lettieri's been outstanding. Logan Shaw's the captain. Some guys who have had some real NHL experience. I think at this point in their career, Zach, we probably know what they are, and they're no more than a guy who can play a game or two, get called up, and get an opportunity, maybe flourish. But I think, your Luke Hameses of the world, it's a small sample size for me to go out and about and say, you know what, these guys should get a significant look, like even a Quillen coming back from injury, like that's good stuff too. But it's more so just more the consistency that I think separates guys from the American League to the National League. I think that's something that guys like Villeneuve and others will continue to battle with, as their careers move on. Like even a Benoit Groux, it's like, how do you find that game on a consistent basis at the NHL level? Because I think it's no secret with a bunch of these guys, they possess many tools to be able to be successful in the NHL. Just how can you do it over a longer period of time, if that makes sense?
100%. And I think that's kind of what I was getting at off the top, right? Is like there's different groupings of players here within AHL teams. And when you look at this Marlies team here right now, as you pointed out, some of the veterans, you know what they are. It's not like these guys have just never gotten a shot. A lot of them have and haven't been able to stick. But to your point, they can play a game or two, and they can be serviceable players who can jump up and help you out in a pinch and in injury situations and kind of take that leap as people who can fill in. And that's probably the extent of their abilities at the NHL level. But then I keep looking at that group of players, the Hames, Quillen, Grew, Villeneuve, that kind of group of player where I keep thinking to myself, if they can find a way to start to put some things together or add some tools to their bag, the Marlies might have some guys here on this team that can push through to the next level. It's a smaller group of players, but they might have some guys, and those guys can be very important to you. You know, it's not like it's uncommon for players to finally make their way to the NHL at 24, 25, even at 26. Maybe less common, but it's still something that can happen. And I think the Marlies have a bunch of guys here on this team that can do it, and that could be guys who are contending for spots next season.
If that's the case, then I think John Gruden should get a significant shot. And maybe he was playing poker, although it didn't feel that way when I asked him directly last week, as I have every pretty much coaching candidate I've had on the show. Like I've talked to the Maple Leafs, and he said, and I get it, like, you know, it's weird timing because the Marlies have been on this epic playoff run, but I think he should be involved. I mean, Bruce Boudreau said it on Leafs Morning Take couple weeks back, how it'd make all the sense in the world. The guy's familiar with some of the prospects and grooming them, especially here in significant moments. Guys like Cowan and Villeneuve and Ben Danford, I think, is very closer than people think to the NHL level. So he's been such a key integral part in progressing and maturing these prospects. I don't know how he's not involved in this process, and maybe he is. I think it's out there who's dedicated, who's involved in this process. There's probably 5, 6, 7 names, and it sounds like whatever several days means, they're going to probably make a decision, I would say, in the next week prior to the NHL draft. But I think a lot should be said of the job John Gruden has done. No different than like Manny Malhotra in Vancouver, won the Calder Cup with Abbotsford, and like a year later, he's got an NHL job. So if it's not here, I think it's going to be somewhere here with John Gruden, assuming it's 3-0 in this series. They're likely to win the Calder Cup here at some point.
Yeah, I got a couple more players that I want to ask you about, and then I'll let you go, and we'll get to some callers here in the chat. But the one guy you brought up in that, and you've mentioned his name a couple of different times, Ben Danford. I think it shouldn't get lost on people that Ben Danford joined the Toronto Marlies after his season ended in the OHL with the Brantford Bulldogs. They were making a significant push for the Memorial Cup. They fell short, and all of a sudden Ben Danford becomes available to the Marlies. They bring him up, and very quickly he's risen in the trust tree or the trust ladder, whatever you want to call it, of Gruden. You know, he makes his way into power play situations. It's 1-0 late in the third period. The Toronto Marlies go to the penalty kill, and who's out there? Ben Danford to kill that thing off in a 1-0 game on home ice. He's getting a lot of opportunities, and the one thing that's standing out to me here right now, Nick, is the all-around game that he seems to have to him. I think the one thing we all kind of thought about Ben Danford going into this season, and even for those who followed him in the OHL, was can't really play offensively. He doesn't have that to his game. That was one of the things that stood out when he played at the World Juniors. Like, the guy blocks 10 million shots a game. He hits everything that moves. He's solid defensively, but he's never going to score you a goal. He's not really going to be a guy who's going to contribute offensively. It seems like that's grown throughout the course of the season in the AHL, and that's really picked up here now since he's joined the Marlies.
And a big reason why, and again, I'm no analyst of prospects, but is his skating. I had the luxury on Friday of having not one but two people who knew Ben Danford very, very well. Number one, John Gruden, the head coach of the Marlies. Number two, Jay McKee, who just finished off coaching him for 50 games in the Ontario Hockey League. And the most noticeable thing that each guy brought up was his skating. And even watching this game 3 tonight, like, he does not look out of place. Again, as you just referenced, it's been a very, very long season, and he's known as more of like a Chris Tanev type, but I still wonder if there's untapped potential offensively. Like, the OHL is a different, stomping ground, but he put up some pretty decent numbers offensively, and we'll see if he can do that in the AHL. But I just brought it up earlier on. Like, there's a reason why this guy's running the first power play unit for now the Toronto Marlies. So I think, to your point, the expectation when this kid was drafted, he's a prototypical shutdown guy. But I mean, the more and more you start to talk to people, I think there's a higher upside. And Zach, the biggest reason why is because he's really, really immensely improved his skating. Like, you watched the game, he was whipping all over the ice tonight. He's got that tall frame. I think as he gets older too and puts more muscle on, I think he's going to be tougher to play against. And I think he's, again, you want to be careful. I understand it's Toronto. We don't want to build this guy up like he's Bobby Orr, but there's no secret watching Ben Danford's game grow over the last 6 months specifically. There's reason to get excitement for sure in this market.
Yeah, that was something I kept thinking during the game. Like, is it because I'm just looking for the guy and want to see how he's doing, or is it because he's actually playing that well? And I think he was actually genuinely just jumping off the page like that. He was very noticeable in this game. He's made an impact on both sides of the ice for the Toronto Marlies, and he was a guy that John Gruden could rely upon. The other guy that I want to ask you about is Easton Cowan. I know that we've brought him up a few different times here, but I just really want to hone in on him. I talk about that group of guys who are kind of in the middle where, you know, they could make it to the NHL and be guys who could step in and be in the roster, but they got to work on some stuff. They got to improve finishing ability, skating, defensively, whatever it is, different parts of their game, and some of the consistency to be NHL players. A guy that I just can't help but have this takeaway of he's ready is Easton Cowan. Easton Cowan was the best player on the ice for both teams here tonight. Every time he was on the ice, he looked dangerous. I thought he could score, or he was going to create an opportunity for somebody else to score. He just looked like he was on a different level than pretty much everybody else in this game. What did you make of Easton Cowan in Game 3 here tonight?
He looks free and easy. I mean, taking nothing away from the exploration under Craig Berube, I think he was unable at times to be sort of that skill guy that had made him such a perennial player in the CHL and the Ontario Hockey League, of course, with the London Knights. And I think the game is driving through him. I think just watching Cowan more and more the way I have, and now it's been 3 or 4 games that I've been to the Marlies games, he's just playing with a lot of confidence and busting out moves that you probably wouldn't see under Craig Berube. I'm not here to pile on Craig Berube. I think he's a wonderful coach, but I think when you look at the untapped skill potential of like Easton Cowan, I understand this is the American Hockey League as opposed to the NHL. A lot of that shit doesn't fly in that league, but even like the between the legs, the way, he put things together tonight, it brings that level of excitement that you start to wonder what Cowan could look like potentially in that top 6, maybe the middle 6. Maybe he's better suited to be on that third line long-term with this team, but you sort of remember, oh yeah, there's a reason why this guy was a bona fide star and superstar at that in junior hockey. And I think he's had more of a green light offensively, and I think it's easier when there's not guys like Matthews and, Nyes of the world and Tavares's and Nylanders, where he's pretty much the guy offensively for the Marlies, and he's acted upon that. He's got that level of swagger that you need in a young player, and it's great. And this is why we always talked about it late in the season, why it was so smart and it made the most sense in the world to send Cowan down after the season to get that swagger back up, that confidence back up in time for training camp in the fall.
Okay, last thing that I want to ask you about, and then I'm going to let you go. I'm not going to ask you about Joseph Woll. You guys broke that down, you and Dave Pagnotta, here on this channel. A video came out earlier today, right after the trade news broke, so everyone go check that out. And Nick will break that down tomorrow further on Leafs Morning Take, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on this channel. So subscribe. Don't leave this page here. Wait up all night if you have to for tomorrow morning's show. But what I want to ask you about is where you're at on the goaltending of the Maple Leafs organization. You trade Joseph Woll away. You acquire Samuel Ersson back. Earlier today on the sheet, Jeff and Dave both talked about the fact, and I believe he talked about it in the video as well, there's a pretty decent chance here that they don't qualify Samuel Ersson. Like, he's just a piece of the trade that they don't qualify and he moves on, and you continue to open up cap space and contracts. But all this means here, Nick, is that Akhtiamov and Dennis Hildeby are going to be expected to make the leap sooner rather than later, because you've just opened up one spot. I cannot see a future here in this summer where they go out and acquire another goaltender to back up Anthony Stolarz. I would be shocked if they did. I mean, grab that clip if they end up doing that. But I can't see that happening, which just means Akhtiamov and Dennis Hildeby are going to be expected to be guys who are going to be at the NHL level in the NHL very soon. How do you feel about the Maple Leafs, the organizational goaltending situation that they're in right now?
Well, firstly, all I could think was, is Danny Briere playing checkers? Who has the Maple Leafs first round pick? He's like, oh, here's
Yeah.
Samuel Ersson. Here's a pile of shit. Why don't you play him next year and lose some hockey games? But I think to your point, it's very unlikely, at least in my opinion, talking to Pagnotta today, that they qualify Samuel Ersson. Way too early to make an analysis on this trade one way or another. You think they're going to probably save a couple bucks. And I think, Zach, because this has happened so early in the offseason, you sort of wonder if they're going to just completely reimagine their crease in general. And by what I mean by that is maybe that's not the last goalie trade that they made, or maybe they've identified somebody in free agency or the trade market that appeases to them that would make sense in their system. Like listening to Danny Briere earlier today, he was talking about the Philadelphia Flyers really zoned in on Dan Vladar last summer. Picked him up. He was great. This time around, the scouts really like Joseph Wall. They picked him up. I mean, we'll see if it works out. I think the big knock on Wall, can he be available to you? We know the best ability is availability, and the jury is still out on that front. I mean, in the long run, maybe the Flyers could potentially win that deal if Wall plays to his potential, but it's a big if. I think anything is possible in the long of it to tell you with respect to the crease. Like I can't come out here and say on June 16th that it's going to be some form of Stolars and Hildeby. I think Akhtyamov, it goes without saying, likely to see some NHL action at some point in time next season. You can't forget, too, you got to fill 84 starts and 84 games and 84 games of minutes. And you can't sit here right now and tell me that's going to come strictly from two guys in Hildeby and Stolars. So I'm just curious to know what's going on in the war room, and maybe there's following moves, ensuing moves after this where they completely reimagine their crease. I think anything is possible with this new administration in the fold. But at the very least, it gives you a bit of perspective and a bit of an inkling as to what the hell they're thinking, because there's been a lot of waiting and seeing here, even with the coaching search. Like the only thing that's pretty much happened, the Marlies have gone on a lengthy run, but Sundin and Cheik have had nothing to do with that. And they won the draft lottery and will secure Gavin McKenna in 10 days from now. So we really have no idea what the hell is the objective, what they're trying to do. And I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of stuff nobody expects, man. I think a lot's on the table, and people will hate to hear this, whether it's the captain, whether it's Nylander, whether it's Nyes. I honestly feel, and it's just my opinion, I think they're open to pretty much everything, and that's why this is the first domino to fall. So I can't sit here again and say this is going to be the crease coming up next year, because I think anything is possible here.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. I think at minimum, though, even if no goaltending moves come, you're in a pretty decent spot with these two guys that you have behind you. You know, even looking at Hildeby's record last year, I think he was like 5-7-4 in the starts that he had with the Maple Leafs. He still posted a .914 save percentage in those games. And there's probably a few games that we could look at, or if we go back and watch some of the After Darks or whatever, where I'm probably sitting here saying, that wasn't that guy's fault. He did a good job there
goalies,
tonight.
no.
I don't chirp goalies, so never criticize goaltenders here on the show. So
I think, just to piggyback off that, Zach, just to wrap, I think it's more about the system. Like, who the hell is coaching the Toronto Maple Leafs? We just watched Brandon Bussey win a Stanley Cup. I'm not here to pile on Brandon Bussey. Go look at his numbers after February. He was a great story in the first half, but there's a reason why Carolina didn't give that guy 6 million sheets a year. They knew what they had in him. So I think this is more about finding the right coach to play the right system with the right goalies. We saw it a year ago. It's incredible to me. A year ago, all this conversation entering the offseason, the Leafs, they have the best tandem in the NHL. And look at where we're at right now. One guy's gone. The other guy, who knows if he's going to be here.
Yeah, fair point. Nick, thank you for doing this here tonight. I appreciate it. Good luck with the continued coverage here of the Marlies Calder Cup run. Thank you for doing this. What's on the Leafs Morning Take show tomorrow?
We got a lot covered. We got Todd Minerson from Movember Canada dropping by. We have Dakota Joshua of your Toronto Maple Leafs is going to drop by the program tomorrow, so we're going to obviously get his thoughts on the big trade. Rosie wasn't there today, so he's going to come on and dissect the Wall trade. I don't know if you heard, there was locker cleanout day in Vegas, and some dude who was a former Maple Leaf who hadn't spoken since Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final, where he did absolutely nothing, spoke today. So he elaborated on the Dark Times comment that we thought we were only getting if they won the Stanley Cup. So we could have a 3-hour edition at least Morning Take tomorrow, but really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to get brought up here at some point, because I haven't talked about any of it yet, and I've got callers lining up, so it's probably going to get brought up. But Nick, thanks for doing this. Enjoy the rest of the Calder Cup Finals, and we'll see you on Leafs Morning Take tomorrow.
Thanks, bud. Take care.
There you go. Nick Alberga here on Marlies After Dark for the first time ever here on the Leaf Station 401 YouTube channel. More to get to here on the program, but just a reminder to everybody, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We did hit 134 for AM, 134 likes. That means we did hit the 100 mark. We were just shy of 150, so for the third time. But for that, we will do the smelling salts. Over 300 people watching Marlies After Dark here on the Leaf Station 401 YouTube channel. So a lot of likes left to be had here on the program. Keep liking. We'll keep doing smelling salts. Here you go for 100. Oh, you just get that one where it's just right a little too close, and next thing you know, your brain is crying, and not even your eyes, your brain is crying. A couple super chats here before we open up the call lines, as I see some people piling in here tonight. This one comes in from J-Rock. She missed Samsonov's entire career with the Leafs. Oh, that was Cass there. Joe Reiser, sorry if I'm getting that name wrong, but Joe Reiser says, offseason is already incredibly interesting. The trade makes sense. Beast needs to be in the NHL, and AA is smashing the door in right now. Great job by you two. Thank you, Joe. And yeah, I mean, if you're not talking about me, then probably talking about Nick and Pinota, who put out a video earlier today reacting to the video. So, look, I'll just give quick thoughts here myself on the trade. I don't want to grade this thing out completely right now. You can put a tentative grade on it, but I think it's early to grade it in general. I think that this is the first move for Chaika and Sundin, if you want to mix him in. That is the first move of a few that will come. And the reason I say that is because look what it did big picture. It opened up cap space, and it opened up contracts, right? Whether Emile Andre makes it into the NHL and plays on the Toronto Maple Leafs next season or not, it's a guy that fits the mold more so what they're looking for, and is a swap with Simone Benoit that achieves what the Flyers are looking for and achieves what the Maple Leafs are looking for when it comes to, hey, we're trying to move the puck, and he's a guy who can play physical. So he's a guy who can get up ice. He's a guy who can get up in transition. He can kind of get things out of the zone, make a first pass. Like, he checks those boxes. He hasn't been, I should say, an everyday NHLer so far to this point. So, who knows what he becomes here in Toronto, but from that standpoint, there's that. Ersson, again, I don't think he ends up in the organization next year. I could be proven wrong here, but I just don't think he does. I think that they don't qualify him and he walks, and that's it. And Samuel Ersson was just a piece of the trade that the Leafs took on to get rid of, more or less. And then you picked up a third-round pick, which now you have 2 in the 2026 draft here coming up next Friday. So, starting next Friday, I should say. So, that opens up the door to trading a third-round pick for something. It opens up the door to trading 2 third-round picks to move up into the second round. Like, that's something that teams would be willing to do, especially considering where those picks could end up. So it gives you a little bit more in the cupboards than what you've had before. They're going to end up with the most picks in the top 100 than they've had since, I believe, 2018. So just a little bit extra brought back, and it opened up cap space. Like, we can sit here and debate back and forth about the Joseph Woll thing on and on and on. And the one thing I will just continue to push from my perspective on Joseph Woll is that he's a guy who wasn't always available. And Nick brought up the famous cliche, the best ability is availability, and Joseph Woll wasn't always available. Think back to the Boston series, going into Game 7. You go in with Joseph Woll in that one 2 years ago, and you maybe win. But Joseph Woll gets hurt at the end of Game 6. He can't play in Game 7, and you lose him for that. He missed a significant portion of last season. He was in and out with injuries. That doesn't help you when you need your goaltenders to be a tandem, and he's not always available. Again, he was really good when he was on. He wasn't always available. That's the biggest concern. And if he's not available in Philadelphia, then this trade, they're not going to kick themselves over it because they didn't give up ridiculous prospects and players and picks to get him. But if it doesn't work out, they're just going to look at it and be like, damn, that was an opportunity missed on Joseph Woll because he's not available. And if he's not good in Philly, it's not because he's not good. It's because he's not available. That's the reality with Joseph Woll. And that's something I've come to understand. But again, big picture here, cap space. Cap space and contracts have been opened up for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think there's more to come from this. What they go and get, I don't know. But there's availability to go out and get other players. Okay, let's open things up here now. Haven't done this in a while, so excuse me if there's some rust, but let's welcome to the program for the first time to Marlies After Dark, Cameron. What's up, Cameron? Do we got you there?
Hello, you got me?
Yes. Welcome to Marlies After Dark, Cameron. How you doing tonight?
This is great. You decided to put the pina coladas down, kind of take the summer vacation, get back to work here. I'm assuming this is what happened.
Yeah, you know the meme where the prison guards run into the jail cell and they wake up the inmate and they rush him out the door? That was me getting me back to After Dark here. I was taking the time off, the nights off, and saying, you know what, I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to enjoy the summer weather. I'm going to sit on patios. And then the bosses came in and said, get the fuck up and get back on camera because the Marlies are in the Calder Cup Finals. But now that I'm here, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah. I had to start actually going to real therapy too. You stopped. And I was like, anyways, just to piggyback off the trade, like when it first happened, I was a little surprised.
Yeah.
I thought Woll would have been involved in like a more substantial return for like a more impactful player. But goalie trade market is weird. Goaltending in the NHL in general is just weird. You never know who's going to fall off, Bussy taking over the net in the finals. Like, I don't think it's that bad of a trade. And I agree with everything you said. Benoit, I love him. Good energy, hit, whatever. But the guy looked like he was playing with a ringette stick out there sometimes. Like, it was like...
Yeah.
I was going to say not to throw shade, but I threw shade. So, like, I don't think either of those guys are probably going to play in the NHL next year, if we're being honest. Maybe the defenseman, but...
Yeah, I think Andre is dependent on what they go and get here this summer. And, I mean, I guess on top of that, what they think they have in the Marlies, right? Does Danford step up here? Does Villeneuve step up? Like, is Rafai ready to take the jump? Depending on what they think about those guys, that's going to obviously impact Andre. But, that's fair. I think he's got way better of a shot than what Ersson does. And I wouldn't be surprised if Andre actually does end up playing games for the Leafs next year.
Yeah. And, okay, I have a question. Do you think they get ballsy and they move Stolars?
I don't know. I had never thought about that, to be completely honest with you, until Nick brought it up. Because I think when Nick says something like that about revamping the goaltending, I think it's two-parter. It will be one, moving Stolars, or two, finding someone better than him. Because I don't see a situation in which they go and bring in somebody who's going to be below him on the depth chart for the sake of moving down Hildeby. I think if they do it, they go and find someone who's better than Stolars to move Stolars down. But to that point, I don't think there is a guy out there right now who's better than Stolars who's going to be available via free agency. So I guess to answer my own question, like I think if you're going to go and get somebody, it would have to be via trade or by trading Stolars and then going on a separate trade and acquiring somebody else.
Yeah, because... Like, Hildeby 20 games, like a 914 save. And, like, those were numbers on, like, a very subpar Leafs team. So, like, he's clearly ready. Akhmedov, he got shelled in those few games he got to play at the end of the year there. But even then, it was, like, 5 goals against. But he was still, just sub-9. I really do think you have 2 young NHL goaltenders. But to circle back to my main point, NHL goaltending, you have no clue what the fuck's going to happen here. Another thing, what do we? There's a lot to unpack. This is I don't know where to start. John Carlson, would you go out and sign a guy like John Carlson? They're saying he's asking for roughly 10. He wants to come back out east. But are we thinking that's like a viable option for the Leafs here?
I haven't seen any numbers of the ask. I mean, I'll take your word for it here now for the sake of like discussing this. And for me, it would be no, especially if it's going to be around those numbers. Unless it's going to be on like a 1 or 2 year deal, I would not be doing that. I'm not locking myself up to a guy for 3-4 year deals who's going to be at that age, who is going to be asking for a lot of money. I personally, I don't know what the number would be. I haven't seen anything out there on John Carlson. I don't think personally he would get 10 on like a really competitive team. It might be some team who's super horny to get in a guy like John Carlson and who's really missing something like that and what he can bring. But, I wouldn't hate bringing in John Carlson just in terms of the player, but it would be very dependent on what term and what cap hit he wants.
Yeah. I guess that leads me to my next question, because like I don't really have anything to complain about, which is like not usual for me.
Okay.
Who, when you think of the free agency class, it's not great. Like realistically, who do you want them to go out and sign?
Well, I'm very hesitant on a Darren Radish deal. Just again, similar to what I just said about John Carlson, but what's term and what's AAV? It was rumored that the Tampa Bay Lightning had offered him an extension somewhere in the $5.5 to $6 million AAV ballpark, and they obviously said no to that. And on one hand, you could look at it and say that's lowballing if that report is true. On the other hand, you could also look at it and take it in a little bit more of like I think like a sensible approach if the report again is true and say that suggests that's what the Tampa Bay Lightning view the player as. And that's a team who's very, 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 very good with their valuations of players. And that says a lot to me because I think there's recognition that he benefits from the system. He benefits from the opportunities that he got, and he benefited from the players that he was around. And I would be very hesitant for a guy like Darren Radish to jump in here and do that. I know that wasn't your question about Darren Radish. It was more so just me just bringing up a guy I'd be concerned about. But I would be interested in what a guy like Rasmus Andersson is going to come in at here this summer, because I don't think he had the greatest showing in Vegas of all time, but I think he's a guy who can be a good player, and he has his deficiencies to him. But if you can sign him to the right deal, and if you can get him at a decent number and you can get him at a reasonable spot, then I think he could be a guy that you're looking for here. He's mean. He can play some offense. He can get up ice. He can move in transition. He's not exceptional at any area of his game, really, but he's good. The other area that I would look at, or the other guy that I would look at, would be Alex Tuch. Now, that is another guy where, again, I think you got to be a little bit careful on what the deal is, and I think that this is a regime of all regimes that would be careful of that, given the fact that they're supposed to be an analytical group, and I think that they put a proper valuation on guys. But if Alex Tuch is pricing himself out of Buffalo right now because he wants $11 million, $11 plus million, $12 million, and he wants the Kempe deal, and Buffalo's not going to give that to him, I'd be hesitant of that, because I think that probably comes with a longer-term deal. There's probably someone out there who will give it to him, but that doesn't mean it's right. So, again, like there's a couple of guys I'd have my eye on, but they're not necessarily like, hey, you have to get that player type of guys. This free agent pool, to me, is much more picking around the edges and finding some guys who can help you out lower down than it is finding the big name more than anything.
Yeah, like the only I agree, like defense wise, like Radish really depends on the money. It's just tough. Like you look at his numbers, his like time on the power play, shooting percentage, everything was like skyrocketed from years prior. Like, do you really expect this guy to be a point per game defenseman next year? And like, if he's not, how much does he drop off? But Mason Marchment is a guy where he didn't re-sign in Columbus.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if I really think that's a guy that would fit really well in the middle six. But again, it's like when you say picking around the edges, it's like, are these guys gonna come in and change this? Like, this is kind of just like me thinking out loud right now more than anything.
So what I would say though, Cameron, is I would not be looking at it and saying, is that guy going to come in here and change anything? I'm not looking for one player who's going to come in here and change anything. Like Jack Eichel, when he went to Buffalo, is a player that goes in there and changes things for them.
Agreed.
The guys that you're looking at getting, and the guys you should be looking at getting, is making the whole better by the sum of the parts, right? Adding all of the pieces together makes the whole better, not one guy coming in here and being the guy who takes you and pushes you over the top. You have Austin Matthews, you have William Nylander and John Tavares and Gavin McKenna coming and Matthew Nyes who's here and Easton Cowan who's going to take a step. Like, you have those guys. Those guys just need to have the pieces that all work together with them. I made the analogy before, and I know that it's probably people in the chat looking at me saying, look at this young guy, what the fuck is he talking about? And I get it, and it's oversimplifying things. But for anybody who's ever played NHL EA, and I'm not trying to say that this is the same thing as what it's like in the NHL. By no means am I trying to suggest that, but you need to build your teams that have synergies and chemistry together, right? Like, you need your first line center to play with a guy who has the right, attributes with him to fit with the first line center, to fit with your first line left winger. And then you need the guys to work together on the power play and so on and so on and so on. And again, oversimplifying the issue, but you kind of need to do that here in Toronto. You don't need to just go get the guy for the sake of getting the guy. You need to get the guy who plays well with Austin Matthews in the first line. You need to go get the guy who plays well with John Tavares in the second line, or who's your second line center and plays well with William Nylander. Like, you need to find the pieces that fit, not the guy that's just the big name who does a lot on his own. Find the guys that work together, because one of the things that this team has always been lacking is cohesiveness as a unit and as a team, especially when you get to the playoffs.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I just got compared to Prague in the chat, so I will wrap it up here. I will say, I've watched a lot of this playoff run. I think Ben Danford may be a guy. The way he's moving.
Yep.
Like, obviously he almost scored on, kind of. He had a shot on his own goal tonight, and barring that, obviously, he's looked very good. Like, I a lot better than I was expecting, in my very unprofessional opinion. And I'm wondering if you can slot him in on the third pairing with Ekman Larsson, and one, you're on an entry level money. And then two, it's like you needed speed and skating and some youth on the back end. And I think you can go do that without signing someone and without giving up assets in a trade to go get it. So, I think my point is there's a lot of positives coming out of this playoff run outside of the Marlies' success. And I think there's a strong foundation for the team to bounce back. I think there's a long off season. But with the first overall pick, and Cowan and all these younger guys, some of these younger guys, I think there's a strong possibility that you see them make the playoffs. I can say that confidently. What they do there, I think will. I'm not going to make any promises. This is the Leafs.
Yeah.
Who am I fucking joking? But anyways, I'll wrap it up there. I don't got much else to. Ask. I don't got anything to complain about. Things are great.
Fair enough.
Yeah. All right.
All right, Cameron. Well, thank you for the call. I appreciate it, and you enjoy the rest of your off season.
Yeah, you as well.
There you go. Cameron on the line here tonight. Thank you to Cameron for calling in. We got plenty more callers to get to here, so we will continue to motor through everyone who's been waiting there in the queue. If you guys want to call in, make sure to get lined up. The link is pinned in the chat as well. We have hit 154 likes here on the postgame show, so that means more smelling salts. We still have a lot of people watching who haven't hit the like button, so continue to like the stream here tonight. Here's more smelling salts. These things are scaring me, man. Those 2 pops that I had early where it just absolutely just hit me, just hurt. And now I'm scared of them. All right, let's get to the next caller here on the line. Let's welcome in Jordan. What's up, Jordan? How you doing tonight?
Hi, Zach. How are you? Long time no talk.
Long time no talk. It has been a while. I'm not doing too bad here. You know, the Leafs won the draft lottery. Somebody didn't win a Stanley Cup. So, you know what? I'm in a pretty good mood. The weather's nice. We're golfing. Things are positive here in Toronto.
Yeah, and us rooting for us to tank there. I give it all the credit to all of us here on the Zoom call that did that. We should get credit. If they win the Cup with McKenna, we should all get Stanley Cup rings and whatnot.
Yes, because we pushed for that as a collective.
Yes, we
were on board the tank train. So yes, okay.
So just a couple quick things, and then I'll be on my way. So let's start with Mitch Marner.
Okay.
I watched his little presser. He looked like he was about to cry. He's talking about Toronto, mental health. I mean, he's making $13 million playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs. There's people in the world that have real problems. So I have no respect for the man. Fuck him. I'm happy that they lost. I'll continue to root against him. The man, I wasn't happy he left, but I was kind of neutral. But after that, I got no respect for the man. Number two, we need to put a statue of Brandon Bussey because without him, I really think Vegas would have won the Cup. So God bless that man. They should put his number up in the rafters. He's a Toronto legend for the rest of his life. Even if he goes to play for Montreal or whatever, I'll still love the man. That's number two.
Okay.
Number three. Now, this is the important one.
Okay.
Who do we get to be the coach? Now, here's the thing. Chaika did say they're narrowing it down, this and that. But it doesn't sound like they're going to consider Cassidy, which I think is a mistake. So I'm very curious who they're going to go with. But this is a very important decision. From what I've read, it's down to Jay Woodcroft, Patrick Waugh, Joe Pavelski. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else I'm missing.
Patrick Waugh, Jay Woodcroft, Joe Pavelski.
There's one more.
Yeah, fuck. Who is it?
Yeah, I can't remember. But I don't really have a preference, but it's obviously a very important decision. So, it's been an interesting off season. I definitely miss doing these little chats. You should do a couple in the summer. I think that would be kind of fun.
Dallas Eakins.
Yeah, Dallas Eakins. Okay. I mean, if we could get Cassidy, that would be my choice. If not, I'd probably lean to Woodcraft or Patrick Waugh, but we'll see. And I like the trade today for Waugh. It was necessary. Hopefully Morgan Riley's the next one to go. And look, give Chaika credit. He's making moves and he's trying, unlike Brad Treliving, who just sat on his hands. So if they fail, they fail. At least they're trying to get better. So far, I'm happy with what they're doing.
Yeah, I think, I'll talk about the coaches in a minute, but just to your point there, I think you got to try. Like, you got to try to get better. You got to try to change things. And I think one of the most important things that they can do in all of this is not destroy, and the best way to word this, I don't know, like any hope for the future, right? You don't want to do this and try to salvage this situation and do so by getting rid of Easton Cowens and Ben Danfords and those kinds of guys just for the sake of trying to save it for a year or 2 years of Austin Matthews and William Nylander at that, if that's the case. If you're trying to build something here that you think can actually be competitive this season and the season after, but it's also going to be competitive 3, 4, 5 years down the road, then that's a much more appropriate look at things. And if you're going to take some chances here, I've got no issue with that. You know that your back is against the wall when it comes to what Austin Matthews and his decision could be here in the next little while. So just don't do anything rash. Try to get better, but don't do anything rash. Build yourself into a team that could be a legitimate team and a contender and somebody who could be in a decent spot if somebody like Austin Matthews does decide to leave. But don't ruin what you have here. I don't know if you had anything else there, Jordan, before I let you go.
No, I agree with your points. Yeah, as far as Matthews, if he stays, great. If he goes, he goes. I mean, we just got to build. Honestly, if they could trade him for the second overall pick, I would probably do it, honestly. But I know they're not going to do that. So,
yeah.
So, Anyway,
I don't
good
think
talking
that's
to
going
you,
to happen.
Zach. Have a good rest of your summer.
Thank you.
And,
You as well,
I will
Jordan. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. We'll see you for game number 1. Go Leafs, go! Go Canada in soccer.
All right. Sounds good. Go Canada. We'll see you for game number 1. Thanks for the call, Jordan. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
There you go. Jordan on the line. More calls to get to here. Just quickly before I get to the next caller, it's one. He's a fan favorite here on the show, whether it's on the calls or in the chat. But before we get to him, just one thing I want to point out here with the coaching. I've honestly kind of gotten to the point, and I know people are going to look at me and say, you're the one who talks on here. You should have an opinion. And I get that, and I get that in some ways. This is probably just me not doing my job. But, like, I've given up on guessing who the coach will be or trying to determine if somebody would be a good coach or a bad coach here. You know, like the names that were just rattled off by Jordan there, the 5, Patrick Waugh, Jay Woodcroft, Dallas Eakins, Joe Pavelski, and now I'm forgetting the 5th name. Pavelski, Waugh, Woodcroft, Eakins. What the fuck? Who am I forgetting here in all this? Am I out to lunch? Anyways, the point is, of the 5 guys that they believe are here in this thing right now, it just seems like it's all over the place in terms of who the next coach could be. And I know that's such a cop-out answer, but like, we finally got to a point where it sounded like we were down to a final 5. And then Elliot Friedman says that Pat Ferschweiler has been in the mix. Pat Ferschweiler is the coach at Western Michigan in the NCAA. That's the first time we've heard his name. John Gruden is the 5th name. That's what Patrick G. Mafia says in the chat. Anyways, Woodcroft, Pavelski, Waugh, Eakins, and Gruden. But then you have Pat Ferschweiler thrown into the mix out of nowhere at like 4:30 p.m. today. Elliot Friedman drops that. Not one time has his name been read in any articles. Not one time has his name been brought up on any radio shows or TV or anything. We've never heard Pat Ferschweiler's name in the mix in Toronto specifically. Whether it's been brought up in other markets, it's possible, but not here in Toronto. So just out of nowhere, Pat Ferschweiler. And then Elliot goes on to say he thinks he's missing someone obvious, which to me suggests that there's someone else out there, and people know that there's someone else out there, but they don't know who it is. And then all of a sudden today, John Tortorella becomes available. And it doesn't seem, by all accounts, to anybody in the media, that John Tortorella to Toronto is an outlandish possibility. And then there's the Bruce Cassidy thing that gets brought up. And the fact that Bruce Cassidy puts his name in the ring and says he would be interested in coaching the Toronto Maple Leafs. But then it's a matter of, well, will the Vegas Golden Knights give them permission? So now we just finally narrowed it down to 5 people. And within the span of like 24 hours, the list of coaches has now expanded back to 9. I have no idea. If you were, and the other point that I want to bring up here is, if you were to have asked me when Marty St. Louis was being considered for the Montreal Canadiens head coach, if he was going to be a good coach, I would have said, I have no fucking idea. Because how would you know? Unless you've ever been in a room with him, you've ever sat down and had X's and O's with him, you've ever been led by him, how would you know? How would you know? So as for Joe Pavelski, how would we know? He could be the worst coach to ever get behind an NHL bench. He could finish his coaching career with the most Jack Adams any coach has ever won and held the Stanley Cup 5 different times. How would you know? I'm just tired of the guessing game with the coaches. And at this point, I'm going to react to the coach when I see the coach. And I'm sorry to people in the chat saying that's boring or who want to come here and see me break things down, but trying to piece this together has me feeling like the guy in Always Sunny in Philadelphia when he's at the board and he's trying to connect the pins and the strings and the maps and the pictures. I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, we got more calls to get to here, but just quickly before we can get to any of the calls, we do have more super chats that are coming in. We have also now hit 170 likes here on the postgame show, so continue to like the stream, subscribe here to the channel, turn on notifications so you don't miss anything right here on the Leafs Nation 401. Breaking news like today, Joseph Woll traded to the Philadelphia Flyers. If it's going to be the head coach who gets announced or if it's going to be a draft watch-along coming up next Friday here on the channel. You don't want to miss anything, so subscribe here to the Leafs Nation 401 YouTube channel. But super chat that comes in here right now. This one comes in from our guy, John Gallagher. Thank you, John Gallagher, for the super chat. John says, Official Nickel City is the best in the TSN chat. Well, it's nice to hear. Official Nickel City is a pretty big supporter here in the chat as well. Marner didn't win the cup first after he left us. We get McKenna. Let's all move on and cheer for Scotland Friday. We've got Super John McGinn. Well, I have no idea who Super John McGinn is. I won't be cheering for Scotland because I will be cheering for Canada. And then if Canada is not going to win, I will be cheering for England. So that is where my priorities lie when it comes to football. And then as far as the Marner didn't win the cup and we got Gavin McKenna, yeah, I think Leafs fans are justified. I think Leafs fans are justified in their reactions. I also just want to be clear on one thing. Leafs fans have every right. And I'm not going to copy Sam McKee and JD Bunkus because I think they did an amazing job outlining the feelings of Leafs Nation and Leafs fans and how they feel about Marner and Vegas losing and rooting for Carolina and all of that. JD Bunkus and Sam McKee did an unbelievable job, and I don't want to be just the third guy to come up here and copy them, so I'm not going to do that. All I wanted to just say, just a quick little bit on it, anybody in the chat who feels relieved that Vegas lost, anybody in the chat who took some solace in the fact that Mitch Marner didn't win the Conn Smythe, anybody who's watching or listening right now who feels happy and justified based on how Mitch Marner performed in games 4, 5, and 6 in the Stanley Cup playoffs, you have every right to. You have every single right to, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. If you hate the guy, you're allowed to. If you're pissed off at the guy, you're allowed to be. If he made you angry and the media people who put this on Leafs fans suggesting, it's Leafs fans' fault that the team can't win and that he left, stop. Don't worry about it. Again, I'm not going to try to rip those guys off, or I'm not going to rip those guys off. They did an amazing job outlining it, and I agree with what they said. I'm not just going to come up here and be the guy who says it again. I just wanted to say to Leafs Nation, who's been following and watching me along and seeing me go through the thing and seeing you guys and the callers go through it, you have every right to be happy about the result and about how things went. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. That is what sports are. That is what fandom is. That's why we're here. And also, just another thing, Leafs Nation, every single owner in the NHL wakes up every single day and wishes their fan base was like Leafs Nation. Because the Leafs drive clicks, they drive engagement, they drive interest. When the team stinks, the building's still sold out. When the team is tanking for McKenna, everybody is still interested. Everybody is still watching. Everybody is still talking. It doesn't happen in every single market in the NHL. Not every market makes the money that the Leafs do. And I know that there's a comment to be made or a joke to be had about that, but it's true. Every owner wishes their fan base was as crazy and as passionate and as nuts as Leafs Nation is. Because they will be rolling in dough. And I know that's a financial side of things, but it drives TV, it drives revenues, it drives salaries, it drives what you can build, the facilities you can have, all of it. So don't be ashamed for being a crazy, rabid Leafs fan. Don't be ashamed because you want the team to win. And don't be ashamed because the guy who left you high and dry went on and lost and you're happy. Don't be ashamed. Anyways, let's get to our next caller here on the line. Let's welcome into the program our guy, Maxentius Decimus. Max, it's been a while, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm so happy you're doing this show tonight because I know I'm not the only one feeling like this, but I felt like Dave Chappelle's character, Tyrone Biggums, the guy with the hat and always scratch his neck and saying, "Hey, do you got a little bit more?" This really has been hard the whole playoffs not having the After Dark show. So I'm just so thrilled you did a Marlies After Dark show.
I'm happy to be here, man. I will be honest. It was our guy Almo Delic, the boss is here. It was his idea. I was more than happy to do it when he called me, but it was him who said, "Hey, you know what? Let's get back on the airwaves. Let's do a Marlies After Dark." So credit to him. And also, just quickly, you're very much included in this, Max. But thanks to everybody in Leafs Nation. We were hesitant about it because I didn't know if everybody was going to be engaged and want to show up to a mid-June Marlies After Dark show, and yet we've been sitting here with 250 plus people the entire show, watching, commenting, donating, calling, all of it. So thank you guys for the support. Thank you guys for showing up. Thank you guys for just continuing to be here and be a part of this, because if not for you guys, I don't get to do this. If not for you guys, I'm not here tonight. So thank you guys for all of that. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the support.
I just want to touch on quickly the coach thing.
Okay.
I'm just kind of waiting, and whoever we get, so I'm not too stressed out about it.
Yeah.
But through the grapevine, I've been hearing that the Leafs are really close to signing within the next few days or something like that. So I really highly doubt it, Cassidy or Tortorella are going to be on the list, because Cassidy, they haven't let anyone talk to him, and Tortorella, he just got off of losing the cup, so I don't think he's going to be let's go to Toronto,
Yeah, Torts, though, I would say the counterpoint to the Torts one is that he's free now. They're not bringing him back. I could see a situation where Torts is I'm ready to go. Get me in a coaching office. Get me behind the bench. I want to coach, and I could see him being ready to go and get back at it. But the Bruce Cassidy thing, I'm on the same page.
Yeah, it'd be wild to see Torts just for the memes and stuff. But
yeah.
I really this Wall trade. I woke up today and then was doing stuff, and then I saw him. I was really disappointed at first, because it's a third round pick, and who's this guy? And I know Arison's pretty crap, so I was kind of bummed out. But I was watching Sid Sixero's show, and it kind of relieved me a lot, because one thing with Wall is that he's been so unreliable for us in terms of just staying healthy. When he's healthy, he's good, but it'd be nice just for once to have a goalie that doesn't get hurt or disappear randomly. And that's why I have a lot of faith in Hildeby, because he's been pretty sturdy back there for us when we've called him up, and he doesn't seem to be so prone to disappearing.
Yeah, I think that's a fair evaluation, Max. The one thing that I keep thinking with Wall, and again, it's just to reiterate your point, but it's the health. and he's not really been consistently healthy for the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's been the biggest knock. When he plays, he's great, but he doesn't always play. And even at times there's been points where we've looked at it and it hasn't been the best ever. It's not been the worst. Like I wouldn't put Joseph Woll in like Ilya Samsonov, Jack Campbell territory where when it's bad, it's bad. But even think about the Florida Panthers series. How many times have we all said if Anthony Stolarz stays healthy, they probably win that series? It's been a theme that we've ran with since then. And whether that's just a coping mechanism or not, it's been something we brought up. But the other thing to mention in that whole conversation is, who's the guy who filled in for Anthony Stolarz? Like, it was Joseph Woll who played, and yet we all sit here and said if Stolarz kept playing, we probably win. And I'm not trying to take shots at Joseph Woll, but reliability was a bit of an issue there with Joseph Woll, and I understand them having to move off of him. If there's one thing that I could say about the Joseph Woll trade, for me, I'm a little bit surprised that they couldn't find a team who was a little bit more desperate for a goaltender. And it's not to say that the package would have been that much more significant, but could you have paired him with something that would have brought you back somebody a little bit more NHL ready on a day-to-day basis than Emile Andre if you found a team who was more desperate to get a goaltender? Because the Flyers have Dan Vladar, and they seem very happy with him. The guy literally had Hart Trophy votes this season. Whether you think those people are out to lunch or not, he had Hart Trophy votes. And I think he was a massive part of their success, and I think the Flyers are very happy with him. I'm just a little bit surprised that there wasn't another team who's more desperate for a goaltender to step up and pursue him. But I also wonder if some of those teams are holding out for, a Sergei Bobrovsky to come up here in free agency and go after him, or feel like they can go and get Freddie Anderson and milk the last year out of him or last 2 years out of him if he's got that in him. I wonder if that's maybe the case. But again, the only real question that I have about the actual trade partner outside of what's going to happen next is, was there not someone a little bit more desperate? But at the same time, you also have to imagine they probably explored the trade market. And they probably figured this was the best fit for what they were looking for in terms of getting cap space back and probably some expiring contracts and a player who could actually potentially fit into your lineup.
Yeah, I talked to some people and they're kind of upset with Woll leaving, and I completely understand that. I don't want to take away from that. But we're not really going to know until we see the defenseman, the new guy, play. And another thing is, I think that this move was the first of what's going to be many for the Leafs in this offseason, because they really have to overhaul things. And I'm just of the opinion that I'm going to sit here and just let Sundin and Shaika cook and see what they come up with. I'm not going to get stressed out and ruin my summer about it. And then we can kind of address the trades when everything happens and it's the training camp, and then we can kind of look back and be like, okay, this was good or that was bad or whatever. But we're not going to know right now.
No, I agree. I think it's too early to put a final grade on this thing. You can put a tentative one if you want to, and I completely understand people doing that. I completely understand people who were in shock to see it. As you said, Max, like you saw the notification, you're a little bit disappointed. I saw it, and I was a little bit surprised to see that on June 16th, Joseph Woll had been traded. But again, to that point, why do you think the Leafs are getting on this thing early? To me, it just seems like they're just setting themselves up for more moves to come, and I want to see what those are before I judge anything, because I can't imagine that this Joseph Woll trade needed to happen right now for no reason. This is a trade that could have happened at the draft. This is a trade that, other than the third-round pick that they're getting this year, this is a trade that could have happened in July. This is a trade that could have happened in August. This is a trade that could have waited, but they got on it and they got ahead of it right now, and they opened up cap space. And to me, that kind of just makes me do the Brian Windhorst meme. So now why would that be? So now I just want to wait and see what happens next.
I just have two more things to talk about. One, I wanted to talk about the Marlies because this is a Marlies After Dark show. First of all, The
Yep.
referees in the third period were absolutely hilariously bad, and I just
Yeah.
figured someone needed to mention that. Like, he trips their player and it calls interference on our guy, and then they're calling an icing when at the end of the game when Chicago's on a 5-minute penalty kill. It kind of cracked me up. And the
Yeah.
other thing was, one thing we have to wait through this offseason is there's a lot of young players on the Marlies that really kind of impressed me when I'm watching them. You know, we got Letary and Villeneuve. Even Shaw was good. Grew. So there's a lot of young talent there. So maybe we don't have to go out looking for, bottom six players. Maybe it's time for some of them to step up,
Yeah, entirely, entirely possible. Flow Hockey in the chat, by the way, has now jumped into the post game and also is bringing up the chaos at the end of the game. Flow Hockey says, first time caller, long time listener. One word descriptor for the chaos at the end of the game. Gong show. Max, what would your one word be for Flow Hockey?
Entertaining.
Entertaining. Well, also the crazy thing too, to a little behind the scenes for people, what happens, what I do usually is I will sit there and watch every second of the game. My office here is 4 steps away from my couch. It's on the other side of the wall there, but I sit there and watch, and then in like the final 45 seconds, I kind of get up, depending on what's happening in the game, and step into the office and get things set here, make sure we're ready to go so that I can basically click live the second I sit down after the game. And I come in here and make sure everything's good, and all of a sudden I hear whistles going. I'm like, what the hell? So I go back out. Then I'm watching the icing situation happen, and then I'm watching bodies everywhere and Aktiemov just chilling in the far corner while everyone is, I can't even say fighting because everyone wasn't fighting. Everyone was wrestling. It was just a huge wrestling match of guys out on the ice rolling around. But yes, entertaining is a very, very, very good word to describe what happened at the end. I enjoyed that because we also didn't get too much of that in the Canes Vegas series either, by the way. Like, there wasn't too much animosity like that.
I love his nickname, King Arthur. Like, that just kind of cracks me up. And I think that the way he moves in the net, he's not swimming. He's very calm and controlled. I think that he's going to do well when he moves up to the NHL, but only time will tell. The last thing I wanted to talk about, because you got a bunch of other callers here, is when I was watching the Sixero show, he was bringing up how maybe Nyes might be moved or something, and people are like, oh, hell no, hell no. But then he brought up, it's like, would you trade Nyes to get maybe the 4th or 5th overall pick and then pick up like a Keaton Verhoff along with McKenna? Would you do that?
Okay, so outline this trade again.
So, like, trading Nyes, for example, to Chicago for their 5th overall pick, and then you pick up, whatever defenseman's there, like Keaton Verhoff, Chase Reed, whoever's left over, and then you got McKinnon and the D-man.
Okay, so a couple things. One, if you're doing that, I think you have to trade Austin Matthews. Because I don't I think that's you're trading him and you're getting that pick and you're getting those types of players with that pick. That means that you're not going to be competitive here for the next 2 years because that D-man is not stepping into the NHL right away. That also means you're losing a top 6 forward. And you're not really replacing him via free agency. I don't see what trade you would go out there and find that you could replace a guy like Matthew Nyes with. So there's that. If you want to rebuild this thing and tear it down and start again, sure. I'm not going to say no. I think that's a full-blown reset. Like, that's trade Nyes, then you trade Matthews, then you probably trade Nylander, you're trading Riley, and you're just tearing this thing down. You're getting the picks, you're piling on these guys, and you're getting ready to be good in 3 to 5 years. So that's that part of it. The other part that even if you are going down that path and thinking about it, that gives me pause is Matthew Nyes is the kind of guy that you want. You know, I know people think he's overrated and stuff, and from a points production perspective, it might be the case. But I think what he brings you from an intangibles aspect is it's something this team has desperately been missing since Nazem Kadri left. And even if it's not apples to Nazem Kadri, it's the same type of element. It's a guy who plays in your top six, is an absolute menace. He can put up points. He can do some disgusting things with the puck. He can score goals. Like, I love Matthew Nyes, and I love everything he brings. So I'm really hesitant to getting rid of him because I think he's even a guy, at his age that you look at and you think, even if you're going to be good in 3 to 5 years, he's still going to be at that point 26, 27 years old. Like, why would you not want a prime 26, 27-year-old Matthew Nyes in this group, even if you are rebuilding? Like, that's the kind of guy who ends up being the leader of this group. So that's the other thing that scares me about that as well.
Yeah, honestly, personally, I wouldn't do it, but Sid was very fixated on it, and I was curious about what you had to say about it, so that's why I figured I'd ask you.
Yeah, I mean, look, like I don't hate it completely, but it tells you you're going in a very specific direction. And to me, I don't think they're willing to go in that direction right now. That's why I'm really
wants to. I don't think MLSE wants to either. So
yeah, and even at that point, like again, as I just mentioned, I think even if you are going in that direction, Nyes is still a guy you want here to be a part of the group.
Anyways, man, love talking to you. I want to hear from these other callers that are sitting here waiting. Sorry if I took too long, but no. I just really enjoyed the show, and I'm so happy you chose to do this, or your boss did, and you agreed to, because it's a great community that we have here, and everyone's talking and chat and saying hello. I've missed you so much, and I miss all the guys chatting too, and I'll talk to you later.
Well, thanks for calling in here tonight, Max. I'm happy to do it, and I'm happy to be here and see everybody and talk with everybody. So thank you for calling in here tonight, Max, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Have a great night.
Thank you. You too, Max. There you go. Max Entius Decimus. All right, let's get to our next caller here on the line. Let's welcome into the program Jeremy. What's up, Jeremy?
Oh, Jesus. How you doing, Zach?
I'm not bad, buddy. How are you? It's been a while.
It's been a while. First of all, let's go a little clapping for Flow Racing, because I subscribe to that for my Canadian $300 a year, and just to watch my racing highlights. But also, when our Marlies are in there, we get to watch them. So at the end of the day, it's the perfect thing to watch my racing. And way to see Flo on here with the Flow Hockey, because the Marlies are in the Calder Cup Finals, to where Flo wouldn't pay attention to this chat right here, but they better not be a fake one, because we had a fake one on our racing stream there 2 weeks, and we had somebody with a Flow sticker and acting like Flo, trying to present that they want to follow our race team next year. Let's see how great they are at the end of the day. It's great. Nice to hear you. Yeah, we appreciate you, Jim. Thank you, Flo. You should. Thank you for following everything. At the end of the day, is Zach, hey, one thing I want to get to, my guy. Yep. I think maybe it was after the Dallas Stars game with Akhtiamov, my fucking guy. I don't know if anybody remembers, but I said he was my guy. Everybody watch him. That dude has the confidence. Nobody wears a hat backwards going into a dressing room, right? And now, like, Hildeby's not shit. It's just like you got somebody rocking it in a perfect size goalie as a rookie, Russian with a OV, not like Ovechkin with the IN. They spelt his Russian name backwards, right? OV is like every Russian name, you know what I mean? Fetisov, Konstantinov, Fedorov, Kozlov, Larionov, Fedorov, everybody, right? They're all OVs. That Russian goalie has an OV. Artur Akhtiamov. If nobody needs to say double A, like, let's get the speech going, people. Artur Akhtiamov. That's right. This is, you know what I mean? At the end of there's a couple people in here. I work during the day and listen to you and Merrick, the goat, the fucking goat. Hey, I want to know if Merrick knows who the CHL Player of the Year is in 1994, aka / Rookie of the Year. Because when he figures out who it is, it's where he came from. He was my cousin's billet, and he is from the USSR. That is his only fucking clue. At the end of the day, is I want to go back. Remember when we were talking about all the stupidness to where everybody's like, oh, look at this coach, all that. Everybody goes bananas. To where it's like, oh, Sadi, what does he know? Well, A, he's been scouting Sweden for 7 years. Get a clue. And 2, hey, everybody want to get nuts? Oh, Sundin, no. Brother, no. Everybody want to get nuts? Do you ever think Sundin maybe is the guy that just comes in and manage the stupidity around him? And I think that's what we are watching right now. Sundin don't need to come out and talk until Chaika fucks up, which, you know what? I'd look awkward too, speaking in front of what he has speaking to. At the end of the day is, you know what? Let's do something stupid and different. Because I've been saying let's do something stupid and different with about 2 weeks to go in the league. And then soon as this fucking after dark ends, I still didn't email you because I was like, Zach, send me your email. You're too busy. You got mine, but I'll email you to her. No, I got 2 businesses to run and a race fucking team to run. Well, driver, owner, sponsor, marketing guy. Anyways, at the end of the day, it's like, wow, there's Sundin right there, and I saw it last year while he's sitting there in those Leaf things coming around, hanging around the guys. And then it's Aktiamov to where the guy is called up for 3 games, sits on the bench for 2, comes in for a third period, shuts it out, goes into Dallas, and then I think after the second period, everybody said, hey, buddy, maybe let some goals in because we need to get closer to the top 5 in the draft. And then I told everybody, that's my guy. Nobody walks in at 24 rookie of the Marlies. You would have a set of fucking couillons if you walked into the Marlies with that veteran team for all those pieces that were supposed to be, you know, if you make the playoffs, we got people, we don't have to trade capital because we got none. But we got a Logan Shaw, a Terry, the guy's a fucking ancient motherfucker. He's not yet. At the end of the day, we have all those guys, but you got Aktiamov coming in with a hat backwards, and then he comes up to the Leaf, hat backwards. Hey, that haircut on fucking Hildeby, wow, way better. Now you could see him. At the end of the day, it's like, wow, this guy, that. Then we go to Sundin. Do you ever think, Sundin, look at Willie no give a fucks with Matthew Nice. This Matthew Nice shit, everybody's got to just stop it. Like, at the end of the day is, John Jaika, he'll be fired after that trade would be done if they were to give it around for a bunch of whatever it was to Montreal. I'm going to let you talk, don't worry. At the end of the day is, like, do you see those boys all excited and Nylander being like, oh my God, now we get to talk to Mats, not as like, hey, buddy, to where he could slap you and be like, dude, do you give a fuck like 38% more than you'd be at 100? And you could have like 82 points in 70 some games. Marner got 80 and 81 or something like that. Nylander 79, no give a fucks. Right? Okay. By the way, dark times, man, not having you around. Dark times, not having you around, you know what I mean, right? At the end of the day is Matt Sundin coming in. How can you disrespect Matt Sundin, who didn't win a cup, just a gold medal, yada yada, right? Because there is a pressure there. Does everybody know that Toronto loves Swedes for the last 25 years? I don't know if anybody's got the fucking goddamn memo on that one. We ain't getting Stenberg, whatever. You're taking McKenna, because if you draft McKenna, well, you just have to take the name. You can do whatever you want after McKenna. As long as you take him, you could do whatever you want because everybody has to take what's behind him. And if you want, now you could trade that name, not the pick. You get more capital for the name, not the pick. The pick is a guess. The name is what you're paying for. At the end of the day is nobody knows what the name's going to do. At the end of the day is the kid's been fucking scouted since he was 12. He's decided to say fuck Junior. You know Mitch Marner there? Or sorry, I don't want to say his name. It's embarrassing to say his name here. Who is he? You know what I mean? Like Mr. fucking go silent till today to where, you know, let's all get It's all get everything pies in her face. Not even lemon meringue pies. What's your worst favorite pie, chat? That one, we all ate it. All playoffs in her face. And we could only get like a maybe a second and a half picture of them with tears about to come to her. No. Paul Marner's sitting there saying, no, get the cameras off. At the end of the day is, McKenny, you take the name. Aktiemov called it. That guy is a bad Russian with an OV on the end. Not like a Vitaly Yachmanov. If Jeff Merrick hears this and I gave him the answer to her, that's a Russian with an EV on the end. Ovechkin, OV, it's backwards at the front. You know what I mean? Every Russian is an OV on the end. Those are the good ones. At the end of the day is look at this team go right here. And I said to you, Zach, why are we all getting worried for the last 30 games of the year over that first round pick? Fifth round pick or keeping our pick to where the hockey gods who don't give a fuck like MLSE, right? Our team just do you guys to where at the end of the day is boom. Hey, whose favorite number's 12, Patrick Marleau? Nobody. Nobody likes to all. Boom, there it is. There, first round pick, push everything 2 years down the road, and then trade Wall for a third, a restricted free agent, another restricted free agent who's this apparently little lightning ball, little firecracker for a D-man, whatever. We had a schedule. At the end of the day is they are kind of actually making moves that are solid. You got rid of Wall. What else are you going to get better for a Wall to anybody? How many GMs are looking for a tandem? Nobody's catching up yet. Figuring out that, hey, you need somebody to play, please play 30 games because we could call up somebody and put him in for 10 and then we could have somebody that's a starter but not a starter. At the end of the day, is Sundin's in the mix. John Chaika, everybody was going nuts. Zach, sorry, dude, I've been waiting. Everybody else can wait because everything I was saying 2 days later, boom, this all happens. Where it's like, fuck, I don't got time to fucking email Zach and be like, we need to do a playoff after dark. To where we get this going, and I'll keep everybody happy because everybody, look at on here. Everybody missed you. Everybody fucking missed you. And not everybody like me gets to work from home and get to put on the sheet and listen to you guys talk and be like, oh my God, like they don't have call-ins, Jeff and Zach. If they had a special one to where at 122, Jared calls in for 10 minutes or what have you. At the end of the day is I have to fucking wait. Where tonight it was like, I'm not calling in. Tonight I got too much shit to do. And then Wall's gone and then you hear the chat and it's like, hey, well, look at us. At the end of the day is there are a team full of Swedes for the last 25 years. Half of these people have to go back in there at that. I'm younger than Jeff Merrick. At the end of the day is, when you have all these Swedes, especially a no-give-a-fuck 79-point player with the less games he ever played, like a William Nylander everybody's worried about, and they're excited to be able to talk to Matt Sundin on a different level. How many players are excited to be talking to somebody that just went from, yeah, Matt, yeah, blah, blah, yeah, I'm technically your boss. Like, I can make John go away, the Shakenator. We can make him go away in a second. No, there's too much respect. Just like anybody walks into Pittsburgh. Boom. You can't not fuck around when Crosby's sitting there. You can't be lazy if Crosby's sitting there. Plus, you got a little Russian over there, Malkin. You got another little tang to the guy. How can you be lazy when this guy's had 3 cardiac arrests? You know what I mean? And he still plays. To where, at the end of the day, is this McKenny, you got to take the name. These boys right here are firing. Easton Cowan. Who was our guy all year? Easton Cowan. Oh, Easton Cowan, he looks like shit in the American League. Want to know why? Because he's not playing with good enough players. And sometimes good players, like when you have a 12-year-old scouted native, hey, I never thought we would even have a chance for McKenna. So when with all the talk with McKenna all year, it's like, yeah, whatever. Oh, the kid punched out somebody for saying, yeah, your grandma needs to go to the goddamn fucking salon and get her eyebrows done. Boom. Wow, that's a bad fucking kid. I don't want him to then because you're not thinking about getting him. Then you get him, and it's like, wow, that dude will punch somebody outside of a bar, underaged, because somebody said his mom needs to get his or her eyebrows waxed. I'll take him all day long because Mitch Marner. The only thing that looks different about I hate bringing that dude up because he don't deserve it. Who is he? Who is that dude? Dark Days. Only Dark Days on TML after dark because nobody gets to sit here and rant about it. This has got to be the end of him now because this is never happening again. That old team. 17 draft picks gone from 2003 till now, Zach. Don't tell me you're not talking about how old he is because everybody, I thought I saw somebody say, oh, Bobrovsky stole ours, signed for 2-3 years. Okay, so we traded Wall. We're talking at Stolarz at chump change for 4 years. If we can get 34 games, his max games played, add a little ACM off, right? And some Hildeby who doesn't get injured and like kept the team at a float. What are we talking about with this, that, the other, to where Mitchell Marner, to where you look at him with his eyebrow. I'm like, dude, to where we have to get off this Stolarz, the old thing. Him being old. We know he could only play 34 games. Maybe. But let's put 2 in the rest of them like a baseball fucking rotation then. Because nobody's catching up. At the end of the day, is Bobrovsky, turning 41? Yeah, let's sign it for 3 years. But no. Well, let's trade Wall. Stolarz is old. He's 31. Did you people know that goalies kind of technically get going after 30? That's why Aktiemov and Hildeby are the ticket because they're younger than Wall. And Wall's showing us stuff. He's showing us stuff. But at the end of the day, you get off the bus to walk into Boston on a game 7, and then we hear fucking like 43 minutes, Vitaly Yachmanev, Los Angeles Kings, 49 points, fell short of Rookie of the Year, playing beside the great one. Another hint from Eric. At the end of the day, is we're sitting here talking about old Stolarz at 31. And yeah, we know he's injury prone. Get over it. That's what you got. At the end of the day is you got these 2 gems down there for the first time, and they ain't no fucking Garrick Sparks because Hildeby, you can barely understand him when he opens up his mouth where he's so quiet. He knows his place. Aktiemov, he's got confidence saying, you know what? I want to take his place. But those guys look like they're doing it well to where, you know what? Yeah, I think our team and our D should have played. But listen here, Garrett Sparks, you're gone. You got called up because everybody's hurt. You're gone. He ain't no Garrett Sparks. They ain't Garrett Sparks. Now,
all right, Jeremy.
I missed you, Zach. I missed you.
I miss you too, man.
I can keep going.
No, I think we're gonna. I think we'll stop it there. I think we did 15 minutes. I miss it. I needed to hear from you, but we do have more callers, and we got to wrap this thing up here shortly. So, I think we'll end it at that. But Jeremy, thank you for the call here tonight, buddy.
Okay, let's finish it off. Let's go on this. Are we going to do another Marlies game after this?
I think we will. I'm not available on Thursday, unfortunately, but I think we will. We're gonna try to get another one here on the channel, and then hopefully they wrap it up then. But if they don't, we'll figure it out, and I might be back for another one.
You need to go back to that, find that video. I was ready to do it. I didn't today for the Aktiemov. Hey Zach, you heard it here first. Watch this, Aktiemov, my guy. I've been trying to find this. I don't got time to, that could be a clip because at the end of the day, 3 for 3. Let's go, my guy. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jeremy. Appreciate it. And there you go. Jeremy on the line. Let's go. We got more callers to get to, so let's get to them. Let's start here now with iPhone. I don't know who this is here. Who's calling in here on the iPhone? Is this Mark from Oshawa? Hello, iPhone. If you're waiting in the Zoom call and you've got iPhone there. All right, we're going to skip iPhone then. We'll go to our last caller here of the night. Also a fan favorite. Also somebody I've been looking forward to hearing from since we wrapped up on Game 82, and a great way to close out the show here tonight. Let's welcome to the program, the first time here on Marlies After Dark, but a regular on Leafs After Dark. Let's welcome in Cece. What's up, Cece? How you doing tonight?
Hi, Zach. Hi, Chad. How's everybody doing? Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we got you. We got you loud and clear, Cece. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm excited. I actually missed this. I can definitely feel the guy who said something about Tyrone Biggums. Is this the 5 o'clock free crack giveaway? Like, I feel a little. But yeah, so I made notes. I want to run this like it's getting late. So we're going to I have 3 notes. One, the trade, I'm going to miss Wall. I loved Hendy Walls as my little tandem, but I get the contract dump. And Stolar's like, in terms of how he goalies, I love the fact that he's always beating people in front of the net. Like, if you actually just watch him, you cannot get in front of him without him. Like, he will check you. Like, it's so much fun watching him goalie. So, like, and Hildy's a little, I won't say soft, but, like, he's got a quieter demeanor in net. So, like, the older guy showing the new younger guy, and, like, I get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, if that's our pair, I can live with it. Number 2, the coach.
Also, well, I'll just jump in here too. Sorry, Cece,
good.
I'll jump in. Like, the one thing you brought up there, and I think it's a good point for Leafs Nation to kind of just like take a step back and think about when evaluating the trade. A lot of people were upset right away, and I'm not trying to take away from anything that Joseph Woll did here, but it's a good point by you, and I thought about it. It was very applicable to myself today too. Is I think a lot of us just liked Joseph Woll, and not necessarily is. It wasn't just always about his play, and he was a good goaltender here, and he did some great things for this team. He put up some great numbers. He saved them in some spots when they needed some saving, but like, I think people just liked him, and that's a part of fandom here as well, where people are upset about losing Joseph Woll. A part of it can just be you like the player and he's gone. And I think if people can detach themselves from that a little bit, we can evaluate it on a different plane, as you kind of just outlined. You know, aside from just liking Joseph Woll, there's other things that you can realize made sense about this trade. I think there's still pieces that are going to have to come into place here from John Chaika and Matt Sundin for this to actually settle Leafs Nation down. But it's a good point you brought up. Like, I think a lot of us just liked him. You know, he seemed like a nice dude. He was so pretty humble. He was genuine. Like, he was a nice guy.
Being a Leaf. And then also, like, to be fair to Wall, I'm gonna blame everybody. Let's just agree. Everyone had a shitty year because they were working in a shitty system and nobody was trying. And then I'd like somebody mentioned, Rick Tocchet. Philly plays really defensively. Like, he's got those kids playing very tight. And Wall did not have a good defensive system in front of him at all. So, like, I would not be surprised if he goes to Philly and immediately starts playing better, just because he's going to have more protection in front of the net. So, like, as a player, I think he's going to be doing better. And I think he'll be playing in a system that will appreciate how he goalies, and they'll be able to protect him better. So, like, I love you all. I'll always root for you. Good luck. Fuck Philly. But, you know, he's a good guy, and we want him to be happy. So I'm sad, but it big picture, it makes sense. And, like, yeah, we don't want to end up like those cities that have like a goalie backup, because we have a decent pipeline. So let's give the kids a chance. I think everyone learned what I learned this playoffs is that the younger teams are coming. And you could tell, like, even though eventually the veterans won out, like, experience ended up winning out from young and dumb. But you can tell once those kids figure it out, your old, slow team is not going to be able to, like, you are not going to be able to play shutdown center on these kids. They're going to run circles around you on these rinks. So, like, the Maple Leafs cannot spend another year being old and slow. They just can't, you know? So, like, and quite frankly, that's kind of what happens to Vegas. They're an old team, and Carolina is very fit and very fast, and every single line plays the same, and they come at you in waves and waves and waves, and they don't stop. And they had the fitness, quite frankly, to keep up that pace. Vegas at the end, you could tell those old guys were tired. Like they were over it and getting desperate and making mistakes. So it's like, yeah. So if the Leafs want to be competitive next year at all, it's okay. Shake some shit, get some young guys in. We desperately need it. But number two, my point is the coach. I really don't care. With all of this coach stuff going, like, pick somebody and then we can talk about it. Like, and then off of the coach thing, I think the reason why I've stopped paying attention is you can tell that the new front office is trying to get the leak situation out of control. Because if you've noticed, this Wall trade dropped out of nowhere. There were no hints to it. Everybody knew Philly wanted him last year, but like this literally came out of nowhere. And I think a lot of the coaching stuff, a lot of the random stuff that every other insider has conflicting information on, like I used to be in a sorority situation. We used to do this. You play fake telephone when you're trying to figure out who's letting out our secrets. There's one, you as the person are going to tell three people 3 different lies. And the lie that gets out is how you figure out who's snitching. Everybody, we know this. It's not people. Hello. So I'm not surprised if they're trying to figure out who is leaking to what insider by just dumping random coaches, random bullshit. And I guess it's working because nobody is knowing what's going on in the office anymore. And I kind of like that.
It's a good point.
Professional again.
Yeah, like last year, that's the other thing too I was thinking about, right? Like, I guess 2 years ago, even date back before that, 3 years ago when Brad Treliving was hired, we knew it was Brad Treliving. Like the second Kyle Dubas was fired, we knew it was Brad Treliving. And then when Craig Berube was hired, we knew it was Craig Berube a while before Craig Berube was hired. Like it was Brad Treliving, and it was always going to be Brad Treliving, and then it was Brad Treliving, and then the same thing for Berube. And then you look at the Wall situation as you brought up. Like we all talked about the fact that a goaltending trade could be made. I didn't see that happening June 16th. We had David Alter on off the roster this morning, and he just said like, they could do something with the goalies here. And like, I'm not saying this to like shade David Alter for not knowing, but like he brought up, he's like, yeah, like you could be in a position here where you have to do something with the goalies, but like, do they want to move off of one of the guys? You don't know. Like, do they want to keep both of them? Are they going to be movable? We don't know. And then 2 hours after David Alter said that on off the roster, one of them was traded. And it's not a slight at David Alter for not knowing. Like nobody knew. We all had no clue.
So like Philly keeps a tight ship because with all of the pieces, this was a deal that did not happen in an afternoon. They've been talking about this for weeks. So, and then obviously waited to finalize it. They waited until after the playoffs to finalize it. So like at least a couple of weeks of back and forth phone calls, and it didn't get out anywhere. So like Philly runs a tight ship, and whatever's going on now in the front office of the Leafs is kind of not as leaky. I like it. Like to me, that means like, okay, you guys are growing up. And then also to me, that means that Pelly is kind of out of the building because all of the leaks all stemmed from Pelly's stuff, all of his decisions, what he thinks, all of that. Like, so whatever was going on in his office, I think they've kind of booted him out a little bit because he likes to talk a lot. And then who was it? It was on some podcast. It was a couple of months ago. They were like, he's known to just having really loud conversations in the hallway on the phone in front of people. So like, like it was a trade got out because he was talking about it on the phone, or like he'll put private information in his like Pelly weekly newsletter to the whole company. And you know what I'm saying? Like we were thinking about trading Matthew Nyes this week. Like just he was the leak. People don't really remember that stuff. So I think they're getting things together. I'm feeling optimistic. And then the third one, I'm going to end my thoughts on the Marlies. I watched their entire run. They're so much fun to watch. Like, I forgot what it was like, except for, like, watching the NFL. I forgot what it was like to watch fun hockey. Like, they seem to like each other. They play for each other. They seem to be having a good time. And there's something about you being free that makes you play better. Like you can see Easton is like, he's not overthinking anymore, and he doesn't seem to be. And then like
he's just
he
playing.
Knows he's in
That's a good point.
He's just playing. He knows he's in the NHL. He knows he's not going to like. Right now, he's not at risk of losing his spot. So he's not afraid to make mistakes. He's not overthinking on the ice anymore. Like all of them just seem to be having a really good time. And then experiencing this run, what it's going to do for his confidence after like that terrible season. Like this is for a young kid, best decision to have him down here during this run. And it's just so much fun to watch. Like I've genuinely been enjoying the streams. So if anybody who isn't watching, you guys should watch the next game. It like the AHL is actually really a lot of fun. Like I personally root for another AHL team. I will not tell you. I just like their players. But but we are rooting for the Marlies big picture. Fuck the Wolves though. I don't want them to win. And then and yeah. So those are my points. Those are my main things. I missed you guys. I can't wait for the season to start.
Yeah, we missed you too, Cece. And it's been a lot of fun here on the post-game show tonight. I missed hearing from everybody calling in, missed getting to hear everyone's opinions, and I was glad to see your name pop into the call list here tonight. So I was glad to get you back on the show for this Marlies After Dark edition. So thank you for calling in tonight, Cece.
I almost had to call out because like I have a crazy upstairs neighbor, and like he gets loud and then gets into fights with the person who shares his wall, and they were screaming. So I was just like, I hope by the time I get unmuted, they've stopped yelling and they managed to stay quiet for this entire time. So I'm going to take this as like a sign. I'm going to get off now before I'm like embarrassed on the internet. And you guys have a good night. I'll see you at the start of the season. Go Marlies, go Leafs. And I heard you say that mean thing about Carlton. Apologize to the bear. Okay, good night, everybody.
All right, thank you, Cece. Appreciate it. There you go, Cece on the line. We'll wrap up with a couple of things here. In the chat, we've got some super chats that have come in. We're also 16 likes away, so make sure to keep liking the stream here as we finish this thing off. Ray M says, seeing Aktiem, Danford, Easton Cowan tonight, and assuming they draft McKenna, how can you not be excited for the future of the Leafs? Yeah, look, I think it's a good point to bring up. Like one of the things that Leafs fans are kind of getting dunked on right now is the idea that people are getting excited about the pipeline that you have here in Toronto because of what the Marlies are doing. And while I agree with the criticism to an extent that Leafs fans are getting, where it's like, hey, take a look at who's on that team. There's a lot of veteran players. There's a lot of guys who will never play in the NHL. For the Toronto Maple Leafs, there's a lot of guys who will never be 82-game guys in an NHL team, and that's all 100% fair and 100% true. There's also some exciting pieces down there, as pointed out by Ray, Aktiem, Danford, Easton Cowan. Like, watching what those three guys in particular are doing on this Marlies run, it is a reason to get excited. I'm watching Ben Danford and realizing he may be ready to play in the NHL next season. He may need some more seasoning, and it may not be full 82-game schedule, but he's closer than I thought. Easton Cowan is very clearly ready to move on from the AHL. Like this is amazing for him to get to play this hockey and to get this experience and to get a long playoff run and hopefully win a championship. But, you can tell he's too good for the AHL is maybe the wrong word, but you can tell he's a step above the competition. And this is the finals of the AHL. And Easton Cowan is the best player on the ice here tonight. He scores the winning goal in a 1-0 effort over the Chicago Wolves. Like he's very clearly capable of holding his own and dominating. Like he is ready to go. Aktiem, shutout here in this game. He's been a superstar for the Marlies on this run that they're on. It's exciting to see that. And then you also look at guys like your Villeneuves and your Beau Grus and Luke Hames and Jacob Quillens. And they're not as ready as Easton Cowan is in terms of being NHL players next season. But if they continue to build confidence off of this and they grow as players and they continue to learn and all that kind of stuff, why not see these guys push for third and fourth line roles? Why not see them push for spots out of camp? Why not expect that these guys could come up partway through the season and grab a hold of a spot? And I know it's optimistic thinking. I'm aware of that. But, like, there are pieces there that are exciting to know are in your organization. Do they turn out to be everyday NHLers? Maybe not. It's not the reality for everybody. It's not the reality for everybody on Calder Cup contending teams. I don't want to jinx it and say anything here. So contending teams, it's not. But there's some exciting pieces there. Michael says, dark times is never a winner. Instead of reflecting on his own shortcomings, he consistently shifts the blame onto others whenever he encounters failure. Well, Michael, you know what? I think that was part of the problem here in Toronto, and I think that was what frustrated fans. You know, Easton Cowan, I think it was in their series before they made it to the Calder Cup Finals, he had that brutal giveaway on the wall, threw a pizza up the middle that ends up in the back of the net and ultimately ends up costing them the game. And he comes out after and he says, I was not good enough. Holds himself accountable, says, I needed to be better. I made a bad play. I did things wrong. I needed to be a guy who could step up. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he put that accountability on him. He took it on the chin, and he comes out the next game and he played out of his mind and he scores. It's like, immediately, the second he said, I was not good enough tonight, Leafs Nation sees that and goes, wow. Because we didn't have that here in Toronto for a while. We didn't have that from guys like Dark Times. They said the bounces didn't go their way. They said they were unlucky. We all saw it. We're not dumb. We know you didn't play good enough. Say it. It actually is going to make it easier. Easton Cowan does that, shows up the next game, and then steps up to the plate. It's the kind of stuff this city needs, this fan base needs. All right, with that, we'll wrap up the show. Thank you to everybody who watched here tonight for first ever Marlies After Dark. Thank you. We went long on this one. I wasn't expecting it. I mean, I probably should have because this is how this goes. But thank you to everybody who watched, liked, commented, subscribed. We raised over $100 here tonight for sick kids, so thank you guys for that. We did 3 sets of smelling salts. We hit 150 here on the show, and it was a brand new bottle. To callers here, we had Nick Alberga stop by. It was a fun one. So thank you to everybody. It was great to see all of you in the chat here tonight. Official Nickel City, our guy Max Entius. I saw our guy Gordon there. Flow Hockey, thank you for stopping by. Jack in the chat. Jordan, CC calling in. Maxentius Decimus calling in, Luke out there in the chat, Deviator, all of you who have participated here tonight. It is greatly appreciated. Thank you guys for continuing to show up. Flocelli in there as well. Hunchoford, thank you. Thank you guys all for participating, for being here, for giving your thoughts, for going back and forth, for the liking, for all of it. Make sure to subscribe here to the channel. The boys will be back tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern time, to break down the trade that we saw today, the Leafs coaching search, and more as well. Just a quick note to everybody, if you want to hear more of my thoughts on things, I am a part of Off the Roster, the Off the Roster YouTube channel with Dan Riccio, Lindsey Dunn, Cabby Richards, Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. So I'll hop on there. Dave Pagnotta is going to jump on the show tomorrow to continue to break down what we saw of the Wall trade, as well as some nice rumors that are going on and what he's hearing about the coaching situation. And could we see if we get a Morgan Riley trade soon? Obi-Wan below me, I see you in the chat there as well. Thank you. Flow Hockey, yes, I would love to get Chris on at some point here in the future. But thank you to everybody. Make sure to check those shows out. And finally, last thing to point out to anybody, tomorrow on the sheet, live at 1 o'clock Eastern time on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel, Eric Tulsky will be joining the show. Eric Tulsky on the Daily Faceoff on the sheet at 1 o'clock Eastern. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Appreciate you, as always. And tonight, I guess... How do I get out of here with this? What is a good way? Keep marleying. Ugh. Thanks for watching. Keep Marleying. For more content just like this, including game previews, post-game live shows, Leafs Morning Take Monday through Friday with Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill with special guests, as well as instant reaction videos, make sure to subscribe here to the Leafs Nation YouTube channel, turn on notifications so you don't miss anything, and drop a like.